The era of Ultra. The era we're currently in right now technically started in 2021 with the newest Natter Chamber video revolving around the 20th anniversary of Adult Swim. Very soon we're coming up on the 25th anniversary, and I may need to grapple with the fact that I've been doing this for a long time, for many years. Time is scary. It got me thinking about not only my 20s, but the 20s, like the 2020s, the decade. Specifically the 20s in animation. After going through multiple fandom posts and news articles of animation in this decade, I noticed one very specific through line and, in a way, a primary antagonist. What do you guys know about Warner Bros. Discovery?
I slammed my penis in the car door.
I know because of the way the videos were set up, this is technically still the summer of Ultra, and these are the shirts I'm supposed to be wearing, and also I teased it in the last one, but when it's Adult Swim, I gotta be more comfy. I'm still wearing Gazgano. Check this out. Check out my new shirt. You want some of this? This don't matter. None of this matters. Anyway, this sequence of events was also partially responsible for the 2022 hit video, The Future of Adult Swim is Bleak. Very negative title. And while I want to counteract that with some positivity this time around and talk about the future and how excited I am for it, first of all, we got to know how we got here. So I'm basically going to go through a rough timeline of events of everything Warner Bros. Discovery, Warner's Media has been through over the last 4 or so years. I would say that I'm only going to state unbiased facts, but you guys know by now that I'm going to loudly state my opinions. Where we are at the very tail end of the 2010s, after years of preparation, AT&T finally makes its first step into the entertainment scene by buying out Time Warner, buying them out in late 2018. A decision they will go on to almost immediately regret. But I mean, the company was in a pretty good place at the tail end of the decade. Look at a cartoon like Infinity Train. Infinity Train started out as an animated pilot. As most cartoons do. It's a pretty redundant sentence. The important detail is that the pilot was posted on YouTube, where it very quickly racked up millions of views. It went viral. Did these millions of views carry over to cable television numbers? Doesn't matter. We were seeing something similar happen with Trick Moon. The pilot was posted to YouTube, where it got a sizable amount of views. Not the same as Infinity Train, but a respectable number for a show that nobody has heard of prior. But while people were looking forward to that show, it seems that the production became a victim of corporate restructuring. Oh well. I sure hope that doesn't continue to happen. Spring 2020, pestilence, sickness. A bunch of people got sick. It feels like forever ago now, but you guys remember when people were sick and nobody could leave their homes? What a weird stint. Luckily, Warner was planning on rolling out its streaming service soon anyway, and thought this was the perfect opportunity to capitalize on a shitty situation. HBO Max, a title that was very confusing but still angered everyone when they decided to simplify it, including me. New cartoons that were initially slated to premiere on the Cartoon Network were then moved over to the streamer, like Tig and Seek and the Fungies, and became Max exclusives. Ooh. They also decided to release their entire 2020 film slot on the streamer instead of in theaters, and I'll say this: Wonder Woman 2 is not good. And I understand. I mean, nobody could step outside to go to the theater lest a stranger spit into their mouths, unless you're Christopher Nolan for some reason. Go see Tenet. It's worth risking your life over. Probably. But Dune Part 1, the epic space odyssey filmed exclusive on IMAX cameras, I watched on a TV screen while sitting on a couch at a very loud party with the subtitles off and the brightness way down. I did not like it. But I did like Part 2 though. In the Phantom Menace video, I said 2024 is shaping up to be the year of the monkey, but now in September, Sandland, new Mad Max, Phantom Menace itself, Dune. I want to sprinkle some sand in there. I'm just saying the monkeys have competition. Close Enough also came to HBO Max, but it was likely initially planned to be a Max exclusive anyway. Except for that time when it was planned to be a part of TBS's adult animation lineup before Louis C.K. showed off his C.O.C.K. It's a good bit, and the animation landscape looked pretty good to okay starting 2021. I mean, we got more seasons of Infinity Train. Book 3 is legitimately one of my favorite, not just cartoon, just seasons of television ever. I can't wait to rewatch it after this. I can't wait to rewatch it after. Cartoon Network lost a bunch of shows to the streamer, but do not fret because they just announced that they would be getting a new cartoon, a new IP by trusted source in the Cartoon Network family, Gendy Tartakovsky. It's a smart move to keep your most trusted and most talented cartoonist close to your chest. By this point, they had already lost Craig McCracken to Disney. who then lost him to Netflix. But hey, sometimes the people you very terribly mistreat will come back to you. That's a bad lesson to learn. C.H. Greenblatt, the creator of Chowder, will finally return to Cartoon Network to show-run an IP-focused show about the Hanna-Barbera characters all living together in one town titled Jellystone. Some shows like Infinity Train work really well in the streaming binging model. 11-minute comedy cartoons, not so much. But I really like Jellystone. Season 3 was its best one yet. It even had Brack. See, this is an Adult Swim video. It's not like CN is gonna lose either of those shows. What was that Gendy show called? Oh, Unicorn Warriors Eternal? Oh, okay, no, they definitely lost that show. Erstwhile, they announced a new Tiny Toons reboot, and while this one did actually come out, you probably haven't watched it, but I did. I think it's a smart move to age up the Tiny Toons and place them in college in a Looniversity because it lends itself to more interesting stories, despite still being for kids. Do you think they'll have another drunk driving episode this time, or is that off the table? You may notice a pattern here though, and that is that the shows that contained long-lasting IP, like Looney Tunes or Hanna-Barbera, lasted the longest, at least through production. Still waiting to hear more about that Boondocks reboot. Still waiting. But Adventure Time came back with specials, short series aimed towards young adults, and those have been really good, but I don't know if those count as a revival. If something dies and then keeps rolling out more content only a year later with very minimal changes, did it even die at all? Like, the body didn't even rot yet. But revivals are just as good as reboots. A benevolent benefactor swooping in last minute to save a show from an unfortunate fate. Like how Adult Swim, like it always does, picked up Netflix's Tuca and Birdie. Only an idiot company like Netflix would cancel a fantastic show like this before its time. Not like us. Time Warner. Which brings us to February 2021. A slew of announcements all within the same day that I actually did cover back in the Total Drama video like 2 months back. Sure, we got the announcement of new seasons of Total Drama Island proper. I wonder how that went. I would say watch this video, but knowing you freaks, you probably already have. Infinity Train and the Gumball movie, which I mentioned in the video, I will mention as they come into frame on this timeline marching forward. Not great news. But I will say this before I move forward with those. The Gumball team ended this show on a cliffhanger, and yes, this show does have lore. We're told that they were not going to get a continuation or finale, so they began working on another project until inevitably the company came to them hat in hand and said, actually, can you finish the story? People yelled at us online, and then canceled the project they were just working on. Elliot from Earth dropped on HBO Max like about a month after this initial announcement to very little fanfare, but it's a really good show. Listen, I love Gumball as much as the next TikToker, but it's kind of a shame we don't get to see any more of this show. And to make it even more cosmically ironic and infuriating, Elliot also ended on a cliffhanger. So, really bold of a production team to end a show on a cliffhanger in a Hail Mary that they will get a continuation, and then it gets canceled, and then doing the exact same thing again. We mainly focused on Infinity Train, Total Drama, and Gumball news, but that is not all Time Warner announced. Some other revivals fell under the radar, like how they're finally bringing back the adult animated cult classic Clone High, and also adapting Scooby-Doo into an adult animated show focused solely on Velma. Yay! Also some dumb workplace drama set on Mars. Snore, boring, bleh, where's the blue cat? Wake me up when he turns himself into a pickle. Two pieces of information come out that are tied to each other. The first thing is that OKKO was originally supposed to be a Max exclusive, and that, of course, tied to that, HBO Max was meant to launch a lot sooner. So we can count this show as a casualty of corporate mergers and buyouts. Why not? Add it to the graveyard. I love blaming one guy for all my problems. Very rarely is it actually true. It just couldn't find its audience. Speaking of, Infinity Train Book 4 is released. Bonus announcement, it's also its last. The crew planned on 8 books seasons and even possibly a movie, but for whatever reason it was not picked up despite presumably being pretty popular. I mean, its cancellation caused a public outcry where the show trended on the top of Twitter for days. And I know sometimes just because vocal nerds on the internet like something doesn't mean it's actually popular, but this show was also at the top of HBO Max's most watched shows at the time, up there with Close Enough and Adventure Time, shows that are focused on an already existing IP and basically a sequel to regular show. It would then shortly after there come out that the show was likely canceled because it didn't have a child entry point. So, What the fuck does that mean? At the beginning of the Check It era in 2010, we saw shows like Adventure Time Regular Show and Mad that were not only decently popular with young adults, but also catered towards them.
You pissed me off.
I mean, if you ask me, Total Drama actually started that, but it's neither here nor there. But Infinity Train doesn't even air on Cartoon Network anymore. It's a Max exclusive. It has been for the last 2 seasons, books. Why does Cartoon Network even care if there's no child entry point? And also, why does Cartoon Network suddenly care about very young children? Well, it was announced around this time that Cartoon Network would actually join the other 2 children's networks, the big 3 of Disney and Nickelodeon, in installing a preschool block full of baby shows for babies. One issue with your idea: this means weird shit that airs on Adult Swim at 4 a.m. will directly transition into Robot Elmo. Can we bring back The Dawn Is Your Enemy solely for this reason? Adult Swim's 2021 annual April Fool's joke was poking fun at this decision and these rumblings with Adult Swim Jr., where all the episodes, and by that I mean like 2, would be dubbed over by children. Also might be in reference to a genuine Adult Swim Jr. that a lot of rumblings internally and also in the cartoon community that they wanted to create a block that bridges between Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, full of young adult catered cartoons and maybe reruns of previous cartoons. I mean, could you imagine? Why do I look like a fucking rant Sona right now? Put me in the corner of the video. I'm really tempted because this title is a play on the future is bleak title, just the future's bright. I kind of just really want to edit the previous thumbnail and just put weird Germa smiles all over them. But if Adult Swim starts hours earlier and now they're installing a preschool block, what does that leave for Cartoon Network? But do not fret, as it is announced that Cartoon Network is not only going to be getting a young Batman show, which is definitely coming out, but also a young Superman show, which is definitely going to be exclusively on the Cartoon Network. If you're annoyed that I'm doing the same joke over and over again, just know that I'm just listing off events, and the same thing is happening over and over again. I remember Adult Swim Jr. being one of the first things I watched after moving in 2021. That and buying Max for the Snyder Cut because it looked really bad and I wanted to watch it, and just forgetting to cancel my subscription ever since. I like the streamer. That being said, the entire HBO Max experiment, at least for AT&T, has been an abject failure. They are so much in debt now. So what's a company to do to get rid of these piles and piles of debt? I know, sell off to a different company. Oh, it's announced May 2021 that AT&T will sell Warner Media in a merger to Discovery. You may know Discovery from classics like Shark Week, Naked and Afraid, shows your mom watches. Of course, once the 2 companies become one, both AT&T and Discovery would need to make back that insane amount of money. But surely the Discovery CEO, David Zaslav, will make only good How many times can I make the same joke? A sequel to the original Space Jam titled Space Jam New Legacy releases, which has a plot that is a classic library of cartoon legends getting deleted by a company over-reliant on an AI known as Algae Rhythm, played by Don Cheadle. Is there gonna be a Billy and Mandy movie reunion? No! Simply put, kids just don't know who Billy and Mandy are anymore. It's not like we plan very soon to keep rerunning these old cartoons on cable television. I promise I'm not doing lazy jokes, all right? The timeline is absurd. But then we come around to September 2021, Adult Swim's 20th anniversary. Andrew Ultra releases the first Natter Chamber video of this new era. His views of the channel and connected company are far more optimistic than what was actually happening at the time. Ooh, I love Mike Lazo. He could do no wrong. Did you know that the thing I'm saying right now is actually incredibly incorrect? Shut up. Primal, Tim Heidecker, and Tuca and Birdie were beacons of hope for me. Until the video that took place only a year later. Smiling Friends we'll get into later. Family Guy aired its last episode on Adult Swim, the one where the baby gets herpes. Masterful Gambit, way to go out on top. The main thing, among some other smaller details that I want to go back to, are these planned Adult Swim movies. The reason in that video I said everything is all good, Moral Oral is the only one that's ever been screwed over, is because it was announced that Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Metalocalypse, and the Venture Bros would be getting movies. I was gonna say TV movie, but they just said movies. I was cool with more Aqua Teen. Then it came out. I made a day out of it. It was fine. Then they did a YouTube show with Sir Willip Sprightly-More. I didn't really fuck with it. I completely ignored the other 2 movies because at that point I had not watched Metalocalypse or The Venture Bros. And you're gonna hate me for this, despite what I look like right now. I also haven't watched Metalocalypse to this day. yet, but I've heard that this movie at the very least is a fitting ending. I had heard the same thing about the Venture movie and assumed it was a fitting finale, and then in preparation for the Portal 2 video, even though I didn't even really talk about Poker Night, I watched all of the Venture Bros while filming that video and realized, not really. Like, if it does end up being the last piece of media tied to the Venture family and characters and universe, then it's, you know, we learn a lot about the characters, but it lacks finality. Between the two movie possibilities of a spectrum of a new Aqua Teen movie that's kind of the same, but also maybe hints that we're making more, and big send-off metal finale. I assumed Venture would be more the latter, but no. But we still stand here I needed you to see Carl for a second. In 2024 without a new Venture project, so what gives? The movie kind of feels like it's gearing up for a potential 8th season that never really materialized and still hasn't. Which is a shame, because if they did lead the team to believe there would be an 8th season, then it probably prevents them from putting everything they want to put into this potential finale movie. Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart is the current acting Venture finale. And while the ending is very touching, it still feels like there's so much more story left to tell. Maybe someday there will be. I guess I prefer an open ending than a very direct one. Maybe the fan outcry will do something. I mean, clearly it's doing something for Infinity Train, right? We're not in 2024 yet. Still in September 2021, the Cartoon Network would roll out its heavily criticized and very confusing preschool block. This would also come with a new Sunday night block, and by night, I mean before 8 p.m., that would air live-action movies owned by the WB. Some people took issue with this because the term live-action carries a very heavy weight and trauma for the Cartoon Network, but the network has been airing live-action movies for decades now. I don't think this is too far. Is it weird that they sometimes air full episodes of Family Matters? Sure. It's kind of hard at the time to separate criticisms of this new parent company that doesn't know what they have is mistreating this product, or why aren't they doing this thing from when I was a kid? Thing was better when I was kid. Although I do believe Adult Swim shows need to end at some point to make room for new original ideas. I don't think there's anything wrong with very dedicated fans wanting a proper ending to a show that already ran for a bunch of seasons prior anyway. Wanting a proper Venture Bros finale? Fair. But just wanting a show to come back because you remember liking it? Kids Next Door already got a finale and a ton of seasons. I love Steven Universe, and I am not ashamed to say that at all. But I don't think we necessarily need more of it right now. Evidently, the big studio executive did not listen to the freshly 20-year-old, and we would finally get a new update on the Gumball movie, but on top of that, also getting a new season of Gumball television. You remember when I brought up Steven Universe just now? The ending of Steven Universe, while filled with great moments, is a little messy. This was because the crew had the show canceled out from under them. Was this because of a gay wedding? Maybe, probably, possibly. But they didn't think they had enough episodes in the final season they were given to wrap up the final arc. So then they asked the big CN for a Steven Universe movie to properly wrap up the series, to which they responded, no. Before going back on both of their decisions and not only granting them a new movie, but also a new season. So now they have to dedicate like half of the crew to make a movie that no longer acts as the finale. So they just had to make up a story in the middle. That's not a knock at the movie. I love Spinell. But this keeps happening. That's what I suspect happened to the Venture project, except they didn't get the season they were promised. I mean, they clearly planned a new Aqua Teen season and used this movie to reintroduce people to it, even though you had to buy it digitally instead of just putting it on the streamer that they own. Why didn't they just do this with Venture Bros? For those unfamiliar, it may sound strange for me to say the Gumball movie that was initially meant to act as the finale and now there's a new season is a bad thing. The Funny Blue Cat show that slapboxed a Minecraft YouTuber? But this show actually does have lore in the presence of this glitchy mess known as the Void, which acts as a meta-narrative device for all these different cartoon characters of different styles across different dimensions. What a new and original idea that is fully Gumballs. And then the next month, October 2021, on Halloween, Learning with Pibby. I feel like I have talked about Pibby every year since its inception. Not only does Adult Swim do something special every year for April Fool's video, I'm in this video, but as of late, they also do Halloween specials like Jack Stauber's Opal and of course the aforementioned Pibby. Do I need to explain Pibby? Probably not, right? Just know that the discourse over the next couple months after this video is posted was, what if Adventure Time was dark and fucked up? Not gonna lie to you, I thought this was a really cool short at the time. Do I think it could have been a fully fledged show? Stranger things have happened. Not to turn this what is supposed to be a timeline of the company's crimes over on the community, but again, this is another example of, oh my god, It's the old thing I like. I like nostalgia as much as the next guy, but I think something like Jellystone or Scooby-Doo movies are the best way to brace that. We don't need a new show. Maybe a new movie, maybe a straight-to-DVD movie, so all the fans can watch. Weirdly enough, Nickelodeon kind of cracked the code on this and then never made any more. They're too busy making 5 Avatar shows, none of which are good. Short, sweet, one-off Rocco movie, good, classic. CG Rugrats reboot, I don't even like the Rugrats, I don't know why I'm commenting on this. Basically what I'm getting at, the Cartoon Network has been dominated by Gumball, Teen Titans Go, and a dumb baby show for dumb babies for years. But December 2021, the holiday season, they finally dipped their toes into the nostalgia market and reran holiday specials of their classic shows, among other things. They showed Ed, Edd n Eddy again, Foster's Home again, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Every video is a large connected web. The future truly is the past. What was that? Tig and Seek, the Fungies, Summer Camp Island were all canceled? Well, they should have been Kids Next Door. It wasn't all bleak. We got a new Thundercats show that people shitted on. I don't mean to defend a show that I've never seen, but come on, it couldn't have been that bad. And new baby bears. What was with the weird baby trend of the early 20s, the 2020s? You remember when that Peanut was born and then lockdowns happened, everyone got sick? I like to think it's his fault. I blame the Yoda. Throwbacks are all well and good, and it's cool to put Pibby in an FNF mod, but people were worried about the futures of both Adult Swim and Cartoon Network. It didn't help that every time Cartoon Network tried to do a fresh start and move forward, people complained that the colors were inverted and they chose the wrong font. Oh, won't somebody think of the Twitter posters? I'm being mean. If you didn't know, in the early years, the Cartoon Network was just meant as a machine for reruns and acquired series, mostly from that of Hanna-Barbera and DC. Until the creation of the What a Cartoon Show, which was meant to show off original cartoon shorts to its now blossoming audience, made specifically for this channel. Shorts like the Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken. These shows eventually all got their own primetime slot and were ordered as full series under the name Cartoon Cartoons. In 2022, the future, decades later, the Cartoon Network is really just a machine meant for reruns and acquired series, mostly of that of DC and Hanna-Barbera. And Canada, I guess. All rise for the Canadian national anthem. Until the reintroduction of the Cartoon program, hoping to get a slate of new animated series they could greenlight. This isn't exclusive to Cartoons or the What a Cartoon Show, as there was something similar with the 2010's The Cartoonstitute, I think that's how you say that, with shorts animated in Flash like Regular Show and Uncle Grandpa. It's a tried and true, proven idea. That's what tried and true means, Andrew. As a way to hopefully get new shows of new original ideas made by industry professionals and trusted cartoonists. Let's take a look at the pilots.
Aw, dang it. 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 Aw, dang it.
Okay, so none of these shorts amounted to anything at all. But hey, Totally Spies is coming back. Once Craig of the Creek ends, we're fucked. I'm not making that mistake twice. Did you know someone approached me in real life recently and said, "You were wrong about Craig in the musical video"? That happened to me. While 2022 isn't off to a great start, it's about to get a little better. Andrew Ultra is optimistic. For now. After dropping a very popular pilot in 2020 that went viral in its own right, it's time to finally see the second episode of Smiling Friends, and then every subsequent week there would be a new episode. And this show's fantastic. You know that. I'll talk about it later. But remember earlier when I said 11-minute comedy cartoons are meant to be watched weekly and not binged? I do question their decision to release all of the episodes in season 1 at once. Like as an April Fool's joke maybe, but actually why do this? We see now with season 2 that episodes aired weekly proper, that individual episodes cover the airwaves for a week. I have gone on record, I think within this video, saying that I think weekly releases are far superior than binging an entire show at once, dropping it all at once. I've said it in basically every video prior to this. Week of President Jimbo posts, week of Landlord posts, a whole month of Gwimbly. I can't think of a single situation where I'd prefer to binge a show, especially one made up of 11-minute episodes. Airing their Halloween and Christmas episodes the same night, and then airing their April Fool's special in August. This isn't screwing over territory, it's questionable, but I'm glad they stuck to the weekly format for season 2. I'm looking at you, Close Enough and Jellystone. If I keep looking at them, then they won't move, as long as I don't look away. Where did Close Enough go? Despite the Natter Chamber video that had gone up this year, 2022, Adult Swim's future, at least when it came to new shows, was looking pretty promising. People responded positively to Smiling Friends in January, and then the channel itself went all out for Pibby in April. Following 2021's Halloween special, 2022's April Fool's special, which also aired concurrently on YouTube at the same time, revolved around learning with Pibby invading episodes of Adult Swim shows. Not just that, but showing up on billboards and posters, and even taking over HBO Max for the night. I'm doing my best not to jump ahead in the timeline, using information we only knew at that time, April 2022. But legitimately knowing what we know now, why did you do it? What was the plan? There's no way they would do all this just to cause interest in April Fools. They very clearly read the room. And we know by this point that they've seen the original pitch that would leak years later because lines in that pitch pilot were reincorporated in this April Fool's broadcast. But knowing what we know now, I actually think it's incredibly likely that they had larger plans for Pibby before it was crushed under corporate reshuffling. As we know by this point in the timeline, Discovery was gearing up to take over operations of Warner Media, and AT&T was gearing up to remove a lot of its debt. So these two genius companies are now both looking at ways to stop hemorrhaging money. We already have a list of victims in Infinity Train, OKKO, and Trick Moon, but if they were already killed, then this is straight up defiling their bodies. Close Enough was canceled before it really had a chance to find its footing. Maybe it's got something to do with these flimsy episode orders. Joining Infinity Train, OKKO, Summer Camp Island, The Fungies, Tig and Seek, Final Space, Elliot from Earth, etc. Also around this time, Mau Mau was picked up for a second season, which was officially announced, and then radio silence ever since. It's one thing to get canceled, it's another thing to get locked in a hot car for months. So the encroaching active CEO, now put in charge of multiple different companies and subsidiaries, was looking at these cartoons that would no longer be making them any revenue and thought, Eureka, I've got an idea. First off, delisting shows like Infinity Train and Close Enough, which had seasons or full series that were HBO Max exclusives, delisting them off of the platform, meaning that there was no legal way to watch these shows anymore. Then adding more shows to that delisted list like Mau Mau, Fungies, Summer Camp Island, Final Space, and Elliot from Earth. Victor and Valentino had a near season's worth of episodes ready to premiere, but instead Cartoon Network aired them all back-to-back every day leading up to the finale until that show was also delisted. I loved HBO Max because it was the perfect hub for prestige television and cartoons I really liked. In 2024, Apple and Onion fans stay winning, I guess. Shows like OKKO and Uncle Grandpa were also removed, and while everyone was caught up in the hysteria, lumped these into the victim pile. And while KO early on probably was a victim of this corporate restructuring and merger, both of these shows you could still watch on Hulu. Cartoon fans were concerned because a little bit prior to this, Warner Bros. Already had two fully finished films in Scoob 2, which was a Halloween special, and Batgirl, and then just never released them and deleted them. Oops, sorry, no more movie. As you can tell by the absurd purchases I make for these videos, I'm not super well versed in how American taxes work. As far as I'm concerned, a write-off is a business deduction that is appropriate or necessary towards running your business. Like Gazgano here, this is important to me. But a tax write-off for a major company like Warner Media entails chalking these releases up to a loss and deducting the amount of money it takes to make them now instead of releasing them and taking it later. So like most pieces of American business, gambling. Yay! The result of a corporate write-off of a TV show or movie is that that thing will never ever be released to the public, even when the creatives who worked on it for years of their lives never getting to see the fruits of their labor. Hope this helps. I don't know if Batgirl would have lost Warner Bros. Discovery any money, as streaming purchases and the amount of viewers that were watching a movie on a streaming service are basically word of mouth, hearsay, and the honor system. Regardless on if it's a smart business move by this fuck-ass dickhead, it is, and I don't throw around this word a lot, evil. I remember checking Twitter frantically at the time and seeing people who had worked on this movie uploading and backing up as much footage they could of this fully finished film with reblossoming superstar only to have the files wiped. Surely some Toy Story 2-esque pregnant work, especially when everyone's working from home, exists. A work print exists of these films somewhere on someone's hard drive. I guess for this scenario, they don't have to be pregnant. I don't know why I said that. So people obviously thought that's what was happening to these shows, frantically downloading and uploading drives and torrents of these shows before they would be deleted forever. Some believe that that is what happened, to this day, but I'm not super convinced. First of all, regardless, a couple of these shows have had proper DVD releases. You could still watch some of them on demand. It's just a matter of how much you want to pay for YouTube TV. This is a thing that's been happening a lot recently, that anything that isn't immediately available on a streaming service is charted off as lost media when you could just watch it on DVD or on demand. Calm down, children. These shows were not written off for taxes. They were just removed from the most convenient and safest way of watching these shows so that the major company would not need to pay off these hungry and overworked cartoonists the residuals they are owed. See? It's better? That's the only explanation to them removing episodes of shows that they fully own, along with episodes of Sesame Street, a Western institution. Wait, you don't want to pay Roosevelt Franklin any residuals? Really hilarious in a horrifying sort of way that they scrapped Batgirl in its entirety when it was finished, and then saw Ezra Miller playing Grand Theft Auto in real life and thought, no, we could push past this. The Flash is too important. Jar Jar is the key to all this. And as one of the few people who has seen this movie, you didn't need to keep it. What does this movie set up? It sets you up for failure. That's what it's setting up. The only argument for a write-off that I actually believe is the strange fate of Infinity Train. Not only was the show removed from HBO Max, but also the viral pilot initially that had surpassed millions of views was deleted, along with every piece of OST, art, social media post, YouTube clips gone overnight. That can't possibly have anything to do with residuals. I don't think they even extend to YouTube videos. The movie Driftwood that barely entered development, canceled. And let's be real, I know nobody wants to poke the body yet because Schrodinger's cat might be alive. Oh, cat, I get it. The Gumball movie's dead, right? Like, that's been dead in the water for a while. So our updated list of victims is now Trick Moon, OK KO, Let's Be Heroes, Close Enough, Final Space, Mau Mau, Heroes of Pure Heart, Infinity Train, The Amazing World of Gumball, Victor and Valentino, Elliot from Earth, The Fungies, Take and Seek, Summer Camp Island, several other pilots and movies that never got off the ground, Venture Bros, Batgirl, Scoob 2, let's just put Pibby in there for good measure. And all of this just months before Cartoon Network's 30th anniversary. And what do they have to show for it? Multiverses? Get out of my face. If you're noticing something about that list, that is basically everything the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim had planned from 2017 onward. So, like, the last 5 years. Craig managed to squeak by, and Clarence, Adventure Time, and Steven all ended before the slaughter. Hey, wait a minute, Andrew. Isn't this video about Adult Swim? Well, I specifically left out all of the details of 2022 about the late night block because my feeling and thoughts on those list of events are perfectly compiled here in this 2022 video. The future of Adult Swim is bleak. That being said, the majority of the things I said in this very short video, probably the shortest I've made of the new era. I apologize in the beginning of that video for setting everyone's expectations for hour-long videos, and now I have to apologize for setting your expectations for 7-hour-long videos. I've made days worth of content in this year alone, with a specific focus on films like Black Adam because that was coming out around the time, and a lot of DC stuff was focused around Black Adam. I don't think it's super integral to talk about the DC EU, but oh my god. But this whole expanded universe thing, we're done. It's cooked. I think it's a good model to just let James Gunn, Matt Reeves, and Todd Phillips do whatever they want and keep them separated from each other. Like, you don't need a giant shared universe to market and pitch the most popular characters in American fiction. It's insane that you managed to fumble that bag over the last decade anyway. The current model for Warner Brothers films are Timothée Chalamet, Godzilla, I think, and movie musicals that don't do well because they aren't marketed as musicals. Another video, another short one for you. Ironically, Timothée Chalamet is also lumped in with those movie musicals that aren't marketed as musicals, and now so is Joker. I question the likelihood of actually getting the Clone High reboot in the 2022 video, and now look at us, a musical episode deep. You guys really just should watch all of my videos, interconnected web. Also, short snippet about CM Punk in AEW. Didn't that turn out funny? I didn't really talk about it because I scrapped the WrestleMania video I created in full. Maybe I'll reuse that footage someday. But the long and short of it is that I missed opportunities to see one of my favorite wrestlers, CM Punk, wrestle live multiple times in my life, and I was not gonna miss it this time, so I sat down and got WrestleMania tickets, and then he got injured. That's not important. You know what is? Fox. If I'm stuck explaining this timeline, Family Guy had, yes, left the Adult Swim network after being on there for a decade and left both a hole in our hearts and also probably a huge budgetary hole because it's probably super expensive to keep them around. That was quickly filled by I don't want to say like lower level Fox shows because, you know, people get mad about quality, but as far as viewership goes, slightly smaller Fox shows like King of the Hill and Futurama, and Bob's Burgers never stopped airing on Adult Swim. I'm not going to bother discussing whether or not that is more or less popular than The Family Guy. American Dad also still airs on Adult Swim. I feel like that's a pretty good trade, especially considering Adult Swim would begin earlier and earlier in the day. If you want to ease kids into Adult Swim, it's probably better to use Bob or Hank than it is baby herpes. I know online Family Guy is very vehement defenders that will take umbrage with the fact that I'm using footage from Family Guy's worst era, only showing it at its worst, but that is the episode they decided to air as their send-off to Adult Swim. I did not make that decision. I also went on a long rant about 4:3 in standard definition and got a lot of comments that said that's not what standard definition means. Unethical YouTube tip: you should not widely, purposefully spread misinformation, but if you get one tiny detail wrong, everyone will correct you in the comments, thus bringing up engagement for the video. Smiling Fritz Season 1 is good. I talked about how the episodes aired prior. I'm going to talk about it later. For some reason, I led myself to believe it got more popular in Season 2 and only recently mainstream, when in reality, it got popular as soon as it started airing, even the pilot. It's been popular since its inception. It's just that the fandom for Season 2 is different. I kind of implied that Primal was canceled, thus lumping it in with other shows that did not get a proper finale, but not only did Primal get an ending, it also might not even be its ending. I don't know. I was right about one thing though, Tuca and Birdie did get canceled. No real update on that. It's really just bleak. But therein lies the argument. How many shows does a season really need? How many seasons do Adult Swim shows get on average? This is a really confusing question because a small handful of them get like 11 seasons, like Robot Chicken, which might not be canceled? I don't know. Which, to my knowledge, hasn't been canceled yet, but also hasn't been renewed for a 12th season. A large conglomerate of people got very upset when live-action shows aired as a part of Acme Night on the Cartoon Network, but this does not extend to Adult Swim. That's because they know better. Joe Pera and Three Busy Debras also got canceled, and I'm gonna be honest, guys, I may have just got caught up in the outrage of it all. These shows got 3 seasons and 2 seasons respectively. I feel like for an Adult Swim show, that's pretty decent to average. I think I was using this faux outrage as a way to drum up support for these shows, because I want to sit here in my chain and my dirty t-shirt and my beanie and be like, man, I would never be one of those business losers. I would never sell out. But if I were an executive and I looked at the amount of people that were watching Three Busy Debras, I don't know, bros. And this isn't an Infinity Train situation, far from it. You could still watch all of these shows on Max right now. Oh, by the way, they changed the name to just Max. As much as I don't like it, I have unfortunately become accustomed to it. However, I will still continue calling Twitter Twitter out of spite. And also, it's a much better name, and X is stupid. I still think it's always sad when creative people I'm a big fan of lose their jobs, but I'm going to retract my statement a little bit, because I do not think these 2 shows getting canceled carves out a bleak future for the network. The corporate merger? Oh, for sure, that shit's fucked, but I kind of get the feeling these shows would have been canceled regardless of who owned the company. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I would much rather have Adult Swim have a huge library of 2-season shows than a handful of shows and large IPs that just never fucking end. Bird Girl also got canceled. I think that show was kind of rigged from the start. Like, tonally, it has nothing to do with Birdman. It's nothing like that show. I think it probably would have been received better had it just been its own thing. Not to toot our own horns, but I appreciate the community, because Adult Swim diehards will support new shows regardless if they don't necessarily like them or not. That's strange. Everything listed in the future is bleak video, in retrospect, doesn't actually seem that bad. Is it possible that spur of the moment outrage doesn't hold up most of the time? No. No, it must be the vaccine. It made me gay and autistic. Cartoon Network celebrates its 30th anniversary on cable by rerunning its old classic shows, but more importantly, airing those same shows on a YouTube live stream to actual viewers. It just wasn't received well because they had just laid off dozens and dozens of people. 2023, Velma. Okay. Something you learn when you watch or engage with a lot of movies or TV or games is that every piece of art is a sum of its parts. When something is bad, it is very rarely the fault of one person. Like, you can't pin all your problems on one person. Isn't that right, Phantom Menace Racer Gazgano? That being said, Everything bad about this show is Mindy Kaling's fault. I know we don't fuck with the redesigns, but the show itself is very pretty. I think a lot of people saw this Velma design that is supposed to be conventionally unattractive, and because of that, kind of assumed that the show itself is ugly, which it isn't. Even if it was, that would be a stylistic choice. It's a very pretty show. Talented animators worked on this show, and industry professionals. I know this because all the jokes that made me laugh in the episodes were all background gags. Also, you see that credit? That's Amy Winfrey, creator of Making Fiends. You may have heard of it. That and Glenn Howerton's performance. I don't even really like Velma, but I hope it runs for 6 more seasons because I think a lot of the hate is kind of overblown. And also, you called me the soy for saying it wasn't bad. I didn't even say I liked it. I'm gonna walk on eggshells here a little bit. I don't think the average person disliking this show is because of the brown woman. I do think there's a lot of people posting about how this show ruined the sanctity of Scooby-Doo. Like, okay, yeah, man. Cartoon Network Studios, the actual building with the big logo on it, is being vacated. Iconic spots in the building, like the urinal that inspired the Cosmic Owl, little props all around, the stairwell of iconic drawings made by creators of iconic shows, like the drawing of Spike Spiegel that was drawn over by some intern making a dumb face. I don't know what this character is, but I love this guy. Yep, that building is dead. Cartoon Network Europe had already been rebranded to Hanna-Barbera Studios, and basically every show that was planned in-house for Cartoon Network was moved to Adult Swim. Jellystone airs on CN sometimes, but it's mostly just a Max exclusive, and again, that is a Hanna-Barbera show. Same thing with Adventure Time's newest installment, Fiona and Cake. Not only is it a Max exclusive, but it's directed towards young adults. It's a show where they say hell and damn. They can't show that on Cartoon Network. They did show censored boobs on it that one time. So it seems like Warner Bros. Discovery is offloading the CN boat to support all their other failing branches, which is good for Adult Swim, but during the writer's strike, some very important and in-the-know writers took umbrage with David Zaslaav's choice of life. May have implied that Cartoon Network ceased to exist or soon will cease to exist. Like, it'll still exist as a brand, but as a channel, we're in trouble. Starting September, Adult Swim, which is now far more popular than the Cartoon Network, gee, I wonder why. Adult Swim will now start at 6 p.m. Kinda. I was there when it switched from starting at 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. And where we are right now, today in 2024, they got King of the Hill airing at 5 o'clock. Oh wow, I guess Adult Swim Junior is real. So then wait, if that's true, then what do they do for the April Fool's broadcast in 2023? I'll say this, while I did really like 2023's broadcast, I just had fun watching it with friends and swimmers. It didn't really have a cohesive theme. Like, I like Fire Ant, I like infomercials, I like not Pibby. I feel like a lot of people believe I dislike Pibby, which I don't. I like Pibby. I dislike when everything that isn't Pibby gets mass hate. It was kind of like a night of news, or like major releases. Adult Swim just uses April Fools as a slate to show off new shows since they know people are watching then. We got our first look at Royal Crackers, which I'll talk about later. Really what I'm going off of right now are my videos, specifically September 2023's Adult Swim's Biggest Missed Opportunities, in which I said that you shouldn't believe Pibby is going to be a show because of 4chan posts, and then a day later it was announced that the show was dead for sure, which everyone pointed their fingers at me. They promptly shot the messenger. I didn't kill Pibby, I just hosted the autopsy. I bring up that video in 2023 because in the bleak future, I said that I really liked HBO Max's live action shows, and then Barry and Succession both ended the same month on the same night, and I was a shell of a man. I was broken. Following the fall of Warner Media, I moved more towards the Disney animated shows in the 20s. That was right after Steven and BoJack both ended, and I needed something desperately to sink my teeth into. I got really into the Owl House, Amphibia, Ghost of Molly McGee, all of which have now ended. Infinity Train got axed. I became a fan of the Breaking Bad verse way too late, but still able to watch the final season of Saul as it was airing. And then the two major prestige television fandoms I got into stopped. Succession ended after 4 seasons of prestige television, of perfect TV, and zero fluff that was built up slowly over time. Barry, Bill Hader realized he really wanted to direct a movie, and then immediately thought, I need to end this show as soon as possible. I swear the final season has like 3 time skips. And Our Flag Means Death had a disappointing season 2. Uh-oh, did I say that out loud? Anyway, what I'm getting at is I lied about watching Unicorn Warriors Eternal in the pilot video. I didn't finish the season before I started writing the video, so I just parroted what everyone else was saying. Did anything else come out of the pilot video? TF2 is still very much dead. Adult Swim would officially stretch itself farther and farther back with the advent of Checkered Past. August 2023, technically a part of Adult Swim, the Checkered Past block would begin airing reruns of nostalgic cartoons like Dexter's Lab, Billy and Mandy, Johnny Bravo, Samurai Jack, which had technically already aired on Adult Swim. As sad as it is to see Cartoon Network lose ground to itself, we know now that nostalgic pandering works, like clockwork. This was a smart decision. On one hand, kids don't really watch television, like maybe they'll watch episode streams on YouTube, but even then, they're not Mr. Beast. Man, I wrote that in my script months ago, huh? Oopsie. On the other hand, if there are kids that are watching cable television, even as a kid, I was watching Adult Swim because I wanted to watch stuff that was above my age range because I thought that was cool. If you want to shoot for adults, maybe you'll accidentally wrangle some kids, but the kids that grew up with these cartoons are now full tax-paying adults. And it works for me, someone who didn't necessarily grow up with these shows and is too lazy to watch them on streaming and lacks the motivation. Sometimes it's better to put on a block of television that has old cartoon reruns broken up by cartoons and new bumpers with creative freedom. It's at the very least aesthetically pleasing, especially if you watch on a CRT, like I do. Maybe this is copium, defending some suits but not others. No, he's not like the other guys. But I get the feeling that the teams immediately directly behind Cartoon Network and Adult Swim do genuinely care about animation, potentially even more so than the previous. I mean, they canceled basically every live action show to focus on animation. It's just they're superiors. Also, as of right now, or as when I'm writing this, Checkered Past runs Monday to Thursday, but on Friday they've started implementing Toonami Rewind. Again, airing something that I did not necessarily grow up with, but get to live vicariously through this animation block. That's right, Andrew's watching anime now. Sailor Moon is really bad at her job, I've noticed. I think it's really bold that they made a magical girl superhero that actually has no business being in that field. Like, Tuxedo Mask shows up to save her every episode. She doesn't do anything. Maybe I'm not far enough in the show. As of filming this, I've actually stopped watching Toonami Rewind because I missed 1 week and then didn't want to watch anymore. Also, they jumped around a lot through Naruto. That being said, if you're trying to replicate the late 90s, early 2000s style, I know they're technically better, but maybe don't use dubs from 2014. Like, I know Funimation is technically better, but it's ruining my immersion. I want the 4Kids and /or Blue Ocean dub, and I'm not kidding. My notes here say Coyote versus Acme. Because nobody's going to bat for Scoob too, but there's far more outrage and ironically a court case for Coyote versus Acme. As a fan of cartoons, I hope they lose the lawsuit. On one hand, they'll be in even more debt and then have to lay off more people and probably axe more cartoons. On the other hand, maybe we'll see the movie. That's naive. We're never gonna see that movie. Speaking of movies we'll never see, while I was writing this, I really shouldn't write these current event videos months in advance. Warner Bros. Discovery did what it always does and announces a bunch of new projects, and people are excited because collective amnesia, I guess. I do think that the New Adventure Time movie and New Adventure Time spin-off and New Adventure Time spin-off and New Adventure Time spin-off and New Adventure Time... Yeah, those all will probably happen along with the untitled regular show project. Those will probably see the light of day. I like both of these shows and I'm glad that they're still around and kicking, but I also like other things. Listen, the animation industry is in shambles right now. If it takes 1 million SpongeBob and Adventure Time spin-offs to get animation on the airwaves and keep people employed, so be it. I'm all for it. Show me the Nostalgia Critic episode of Patrick Star, not Smiling Friends. We'll get into it. Foster's Home preschool show, Adventure Time preschool show. Are we still doing the preschool thing? Why would I want my children to learn from Blue? He's a bastard. He smokes cigarettes. Original projects like Bad Karma, Lovey Dovey, I hope they see the light of day eventually. But I doubt it. I'm being negative again. A new season of Gumball is very much in development. We even have a list of episode titles, so no movie, right? Like, definitively no movie. That's what I was referring to when I said speaking of canceled movies. Jellystone is also ending with a 2-part crossover special with a bunch of classic Cartoon Network characters. We've known about this for a while because Greg Eagles posted something about voicing Grimm again, like, years ago. They brought back Brack, why not? I think this is the best way to keep these characters alive. It's a shame the whole multiverse IP crossover thing has kind of been done to death, because even since I was a kid, I have loved the concept of crossovers. I mean, my favorite game was Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I'm actually very excited for this. Jellystone can do no wrong. Sad to see it end, but it had a really good run. I think this means that Cartoon Network, like without the preschool block and Adult Swim, just Cartoon Network itself has nothing. I can't believe they released a platform fighter of iconic Warner Bros. Cartoon characters crossing over with each other, and Smash Bros. Obsessed Andrew Ultra did not fuck with it. I just don't like battle passes. Like, if you want me to grind, I'll grind. I like the option of payment, but not having it be mandatory. Like, say what you will about GTA Online. We could complain about the shark cards, but there is technically nothing in that game that you need real money to buy. Speaking of which, a bunch of Adult Swim games got delisted on Steam at the same time, so I panicked and spent over $100 on getting all of them. So they're all in my Steam library now, and on my computer. I don't know why I did that. I'll talk about Adult Swim games someday. And now at the end of the timeline, here we are. I know this is technically going up after the 20th of September, but I'm still gonna count this as a part of the summer of Ultra. That was just the intro, actually for true. This is the video part of the video. You know, the video where I talk about the present and future of Adult Swim moving forward? That video, the video you clicked on? YOLO is not at all what you expect. Moving forward, I will refer to this show only as YOLO because it does the Aqua Teen thing where they change the title every season, or at least the subtitle. That way, it always technically starts over at season 1, and the executives can't cancel it. In theory. What you may not know about this series is that it isn't just a gimmick. YOLO Crystal Fantasy and YOLO Silver Destiny are very different projects. Crystal Fantasy is a short season of 11-minute self-contained episodes. Self-contained, aside from the sense that they implement Bushworld lore, crossing over to the Rick and Morty Bushworld Adventure short from April Fool's Past. At least I think that's what's implied in the existence of Uncle Barry the Talking Ute. I really hope you've seen Bushworld. I love that video. It's on YouTube. In a way, it acted as a backdoor pilot for YOLO. I mean, technically, if we want to go all the way back, it's all based on Mike Cusack's animation from 2012. I like when Adult Swim not only takes creators from the internet, but adapts their original YouTube cartoons that were initially only a couple minutes long. Anyway, the first season, Crystal Fantasy, is a fun batch of self-contained episodic episodes with way more music than I remember there being. If you mostly know Michael from Smiling Friends and not from Koala Man, this fact may come as a shock to you. But don't worry, if you like Smiling Friends even a little bit, this is where fast-running characters, screaming cartoons, and rotoscoped people initially came from. It's very funny. Yeah, I'm pretty sure every episode has a little song in it, and I mean, come on, you know me. We know each other. We've grown to know each other a lot over this last hour. You know I love that shit. Like the show itself, the songs seem simultaneously thrown together on the spot and rigorously labored over. Like, the songs never hit the minute mark to count as full-length songs, which is a shame because season 1 actually has a Christmas episode that features 3 short songs. If they were only a little bit longer, it absolutely would have been featured in the modern musical episode video. Also, Flying Lotus is there. It's always nice to see. The songs are silly and funny and kind of shit on purpose in the moment, but then there are some genuine compositions, specifically in season 2, that are genuinely fantastic. This guy isn't just the funny Australian pink guy. He should be recognized for his musical efforts. I mean, I did talk about Koala Man almost hitting that mark, which again makes it even more strange that they got a different person to sing over his character in the Hell of a Boss episode. I'm not talking about that show anymore. Anyway, the songs are good.
We ran out beautiful, beautiful pet snuggles to the campfire. My name is Snuggles, and I cannot leave this place.
Season 1 manages to fit a lot into 11 minutes. I've never seen a show reliably balance A plots and B plots given that amount of time. Most 11-minute shows and cartoons focus on one. But what stories does the show jump between? Well, first I'll need to introduce you to its characters. YOLO features 2 important characters. No, actually 3. You know, it might be 4. Rachel, Sarah, Lucas, and Pelican. You could tell which one is my favorite. Season 1 is a story of friendship, and by that I mean Rachel is a really bad friend to Sarah. I was worried early on that I wasn't going to like this show because I think this is a pitfall that a lot of adult animated shows specifically fall into. Creators will see a character like Eric Cartman and say, oh, you just gotta make a character that everyone hates and is awful to be around, got it. But fail to realize that the only reason this character works is because Cartman is a loser crybaby with no friends, who gets punished all the time. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia would not be nearly as beloved if any of those characters ever got a happy ending. I don't care that Mac is gay, he must suffer like the rest of them. It's important not from any moral reasons, just from like an annoyance standpoint, that your awful characters lose. The thing about YOLO is that it's obscured a little bit. Sure, Rachel causes havoc wherever she goes and ultimately prevents Sarah from reaching true fulfillment in the life she wants, but at the end of all the episodes, or most of the episodes, it's revealed that she was right. It's revealed at the end of all the episodes that the thing making Sarah happy was actually like an evil wizard brainworm. She does lie to her about it pretty often,
but I'm gonna steal him.
What?
What? Nothing. 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 What? Nothing.
Okay,
What?
bye.
Nothing. What?
Okay,
Nothing.
see ya.
What? Nothing. What? Nothing. What? Nothing. What? Nothing.
Sarah wants something more from life, a purpose, whereas Rachel just wants to party. The dichotomy of life. The two of them don't really have any other friends other than each other. They're the prototypical best friends. They do almost make out in one of the episodes. This dynamic is reflected in Pelican, who is a loser and pathetic and alone and wants so badly to be their friend, Sarah and Rachel, that he fixes up their car without them even asking after they crash it into Wizard's Cavern. You really should just watch the show. He's a people pleaser. He believes that if he steps out of line even once, everyone will immediately turn on him and leave him forever. He's so me-coded. So much so that he marries an evil demon who almost kills Rachel and Sarah after inviting them to the wedding in a screaming manner.
It's very pretty.
Fucking hell, she was loud.
I didn't think Pelican would be a huge part of this plot, but he kind of solves the finale and shows up at least 3 or 4 more times. That's gotta count for something. And then there's Lucas the Magnificent, another character I didn't necessarily fuck with for a while. But to talk more about that, I'll need to talk about YOLO Silver Destiny. Season 1 ends with a 2-part finale where Rachel disappears into Bushworld. Time passes slower there, so to Rachel it's been a couple days, whereas to Sarah it's been several years. In the time that Rachel is partying, Sarah believes that she died, eventually moves on, gets married, and has kids.
We invite you to place any sentimental items you may have into the coffin, so the physical embodiment of Rachel may finally be laid to rest.
She always loved that trash.
Will this be the end of YOLO Crystal Fantasy? No. Rachel pops out of Bushworld in the past again, thus preventing that timeline from happening, in the process making sure Sarah stays by her side through all of eternity and prevents her from meeting her future love and father of her children. You see what I mean when I said I thought I wouldn't like it? Like, I don't need my shows to be cozy and wholesome all the time or teach me a lesson. I'm a goddamn adult. I just don't want them to be infuriating to watch. Season 2, Silver Destiny, is a binge-worthy, serialized, overarching plot of a season that you must watch in order. Kind of. Silver Destiny isn't just a marketing meme or a way to keep getting new seasons, it's this season's arc, which begins with Sarah, Rachel, and Lucas all getting visions of their future destiny from the purple fire god. Sarah wants to create something meaningful in her garden, Rachel wants to become Empress of the Universe, and Lucas wants to create a love potion to win the heart of Sarah. Now, I know what you're thinking. Love potions are weird and uncouth, but Lucas, believe it or not, gets his own individual arc in this season as well. I say that as if it's on the sideline when he's like the main focus of this season. So now season 2, still 11-minute episodes, are split into 3 plots of Rachel, Sarah, and Lucas following those 3. Lucas actually tends to push the plots forward more often than not. The plots overlap sometimes, like the reason they all go back in time is so Sarah can get the Mega Bilby skull she saw in her Empress visions, and Lucas can get ingredients for the love potion. Over the course of the episode, Sarah falls in love with the Mega Bilby, who sacrifices himself to get her the skull she needs, but then her spirit starts talking to her, or maybe just her paranoid delusions, as she's left alone and spirals deeper as Sarah is off living her life. I'm doing my best here to explain this. I'm glad Sarah stands up for herself finally, but the show punishes the shit out of her. There's this bad guy she falls for, but it turns out the only reason he was at the party is so he could get revenge on Lucas for their past lore. But he also has a wing of bat that Lucas needs for his spell. Is any of this making any sense to anyone that hasn't seen this show?
I've learned some judo tricks on YouTube over the years. Ah!
I'm sorry.
The show focuses more and more on Lucas, so much so that there are episodes that don't even focus on the girls. The Silver Destiny is his. And again, I did not like this dude starting off. It's a weird plan, but the more and more we follow him, we don't want him to win or succeed, but we want him to at least be happy. A little. There's an entire episode where he just listens to the story of how Sarah's parents met, but then it turns out at the end that it was made up anyway. Which is great because I love Sarah's parents. Her dad specifically, with his weird passive aggression, is like one of my favorite bit characters.
All right, fine. Forget I said anything about the blood and bone. Guess you don't need the blood and bone. Be a guy and I was just trying to help, but I guess you don't want any help from me.
Fuck you, Sarah.
I don't want to play two clips back to back, although I do want to show you funny moments because I feel like it dilutes my point a little bit. But there's a short clip from that flashback episode that I really like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just a boy in a boulder. This was just my costume, and I got attached to it.
These clips, more than anything, if me explaining the overarching plot and character development isn't interesting you, can show you that the show is funny. When a show is funny, it's really hard to talk about in a review sense, just being like, this show, because just saying this show is funny, like, why would you believe me? All I can do is show you clips. I can reenact the jokes, but the timing won't be the same. In a video like this, without just showing you a ton of clips, lest it become like a funny moments compilation. Anyway, all these plots converge in the finale. Crystal Fantasy's finale was covered over 2 episodes, 2 parts, but Silver Destiny's finale is just 1 episode that is 3 times the normal length of a YOLO episode. Don't let the finality fool you. I'm pretty sure they fully intend on making a 3rd season of this show. Or another 1st season. How will Sarah thrive on her own? Can Rachel just pout on top of her own destiny? Will Lucas ever finish that love potion? What even is the Silver Destiny? Well, the finale of YOLO Silver Destiny, titled This Is Literally the Finale, like every episode in Silver Destiny, tells 3 separate stories. Sarah stands up for herself finally and begins posting gardening content to whatever version of social media they have in this weird universe, and it goes viral. Finally, she has the love and admiration and respect she's always wanted. She even gets interviewed on the news by live-action Michael Cusack. This is not the first time we've seen his face in this show. I believe he's the one that dresses up like Sarah for the dramatic interpretive dance scene where she's supposed to be on magic drugs. One of my favorite scenes in the show.
With you,
All while Rachel rots in her dirt pile home, as the Mega Bilby Skull calls to her and pulls her deeper and deeper into her own dark fantasy. He cheats on her with a bucket, they have a kid that's a pillow, it's a whole thing, you know YOLO. While this is happening back home, Lucas attempts to finish his quest and get the final ingredient for his love potion. He must fight through trials and tribulations up a mountain, but this time he is not alone. Lucas is joined by several other neckbeards, all on the same quest, making a potion to force a woman to fall in love with them. But it's through this adventure that Lucas learns, through them, a reflected version of himself, how weird and creepy and weird they're being. But then he turns that around on himself, does some inner soul searching, and realizes, I don't want to die for this. This is stupid. This is what I mean, man. This show is not what you expect. It's not what I expected either. This neckbeard that we've come to understand realizes on his own merit that a love potion is not the way to a woman's heart. We have a fully formed character arc here, and he wasn't even supposed to be one of the main 4 characters in the show. He brute forced his way onto the main cast. Doing so, brute forcing his way onto the show. Speaking of, in quotations, the show. The live action Michael we see several times is clearly just like a short gag. But when the Silver Pyramid shows up and opens up and gives the cartoon character a peer into our world, where it shows fans of the show YOLO Silver Destiny cheering on Lucas, means something more sinister. At least my interpretation is that this is the Silver Destiny. More and more characters in the show are learning the place they have in the show, that they're on a show, what they're doing, and then they reject it. Even in Sarah's story, we get Illuminati-esque characters that are hyper-aware, whether for it's a joke or not, their place in this program.
I've had vivid dreams of a world outside this world, where other people are watching us. Granted, it's not that many people, and they all have mixed opinions on us, but damn it, I know it's a realer world than this one.
While Lucas did get to learn his lesson and come out the other side a better person, the episode does end with Sarah going back to Rachel after it's revealed that the people she liked and finally treated her right were actually evil the whole time. like clockwork. At least this time around, Rachel has learned in her isolation that she needs to respect herself and Sarah more. 3 unique character arcs, and the show isn't even over yet. Fingers crossed, I mean. So yeah, the show's really funny. That's what the clips are there for. But don't worry, if you haven't seen it and plan on seeing it, I left out crucial details that are still there for you to enjoy upon your first watch. I didn't even mention what Pelican does in the 2nd season. Go watch YOLO. Why did nobody tell me about this? That's a lie. I actually was told to watch it by the other swimmers when a new episode teaser came up in last year's April Fool's goof. I'm just surprised I didn't know anything about the show, as it is a melting pot of my favorite comedians and actors and creatives. First of all, one of the main characters is voiced by Tim Robinson, who in a very short amount of time has rose the ranks to become one of my favorite comedians. My 2 favorite comedians are guys named Tim, and my least favorite comedian is a guy named Tim.
As you were conceived, the gator, he chomped him off my body.
Oh my god! This explains everything! My fear of gators, my fear of being conceived.
You guys know me. You know I love to point at the screen and say, I know that voice. So imagine my shock and awe when I first heard David Cross show up, and then episodes later I heard both H. John Benjamin and Christian Shaw. Funnily enough, the episode with H. John and Christian is actually about a sentient doll like that of Happy Time Harry, which is the character David Cross voiced on Aqua Teen. I just want to connect those 3 somehow. Not only retroactively making my last Adult Swim video wrong, incorrect, because as of now, H. John and David Cross have returned to Adult Swim since the Ultra Blue incident. You should still watch this video. Jason Steele and Robert Benfer watched it. That's gotta count for something. What do you mean Kieran Culkin plays a Jeff Bezos parody? As you guys know, I've been going to the theater every week, and I talked about how much I like Succession. It's slowly becoming one of my favorite shows the more and more I rewatch it. I've used clips a lot in these videos. And you see a show like Breaking Bad, and you're like, once the show is over, all of these people are going to be such huge stars. And really, it was only Jesse Plemons. No one else really like rose to the ranks as they should have. But Succession's on top, because last week when I went to the movie theater, I saw 4 trailers in a row. And those trailers were a movie with Nicholas Braun, a movie with Jeremy Strong, a movie with Kieran Culkin. I'm pretty sure Brian Cox is the voice for the animated Lord of the Rings movie. We're going to talk about him also. And Matthew McFadden earlier this year with Wolverine and Deadpool, everyone was freaking out about. Sarah Snook is in Koala Man, and Maria Bamford is there to round out the cast, not of Succession, but of Teenage Euthanasia. And it's not just the people in the booth that initially lit the light bulb in my skull membrane. I know I normally don't name names, that's because it's kind of been ruined by other people in the animation community who... I'm not gonna talk about SpongeBob writers, but this show was created by Allison Levy and Alyssa Nutting. Alyssa has adjacent television experience as her book Made for Love was adapted for HBO Max. It says here it was canceled in July 2022 after 2 seasons following the merger of HBO Max's parent company Warner Media with Discovery Inc. to become Warner Bros. Discovery. Oh. But the other creator of the show, Allison Levy, is also a member of PFFR, or PFR. Most well known for their previous projects Wonder Chosen, and of course, Xavier Renegade Angel. And once I saw that logo and put all this together, the show made a lot more sense.
The Bubba is on point. And Alfredo, what are you hiding?
Hey the Baba, I love you. My secret is, I told my husband I'm having an affair with the mascot from the roller rink, but actually I am the mascot from the roller rink. What? How could you do this to me?
And because of that, and also because 2 women are writing this show that are very experienced in what it's like being a woman in America in the modern age, but also giving a funny spin on that horrifying reality. That was a really long-winded sentence, and I think I repeated words. The best part of the show is its comedic social commentary, which was mostly overlooked in Xavier.
I'm Safety Pen. My thing's Safety Pens.
I'm Baby Girl. My thing's stuck in a pacifier dipped in cough syrup. I've really internalized misogyny and totally missed the point of Lolita. For now.
Like, as much as I like the relationship between the reanimated mother Trophy and her daughter Annie, short for Euthanasia, for dozens of shows and years we've had adult animated cartoons about nerdy male leads mostly set in schools. It's nice to see a girl failure loser character so I don't have to sit through Big Mouth.
JK, I'm 100% virgin and proud. Dino, that's not approved.
I was already drenched, but now I'm sopping. Oh boy, yep.
So yeah, as much as I find Tim Robinson funny and his character Petey gets some good moments too, the heart of the show is the mother and the daughter she abandoned, learning to understand each other through their differences. At least in season 1. Honestly, season 2 kind of steps on its own feet and retreads ground it already soiled. Like, I know that the show has to return to the status quo at the beginning of every subsequent episode, but it's a little frustrating to see these characters I've grown to care about revert back to their original personalities. And I know they could do the contrary because the at-risk youth that turn into cops in episode 1 come back in most other episodes as themselves. They're still in the SXPD. In a way, the show is about family and motherhood. I just wish we could see all that without the weird incest jokes. It's like watching American Dad. Like, I promise the entire show is not this kid wanting to fuck his mom, okay? There is an emotional, deep heart within this unfortunate lollipop. The show is about abandonment issues, which you guys know me by now. I'm stoked about that. This network really gets me, you know? That being said, the show isn't really held up by its characters as much as it is its world building. You guys know how much I hate world building that gets in the way of telling a story, but this show never does. The futuristic hellscape version of Florida they live in is a character unto itself.
Coach Kitman's trial will be broadcast live in the auditorium on Monday. Wear green if you think he's guilty, and blue if you have first-hand knowledge of his guilt.
I mean, the finale of season 2, where we left off, Florida is separated from the rest of the United States and Petey's stuck in Canada. So we left on a cliffhanger. I still prefer the finale of season 1 where Trophy and Annie, again Annie is short for Euthanasia, Jumanji themselves into a paternity test board game to find out who Annie's real father is. But in the end, they decide that she loves her family. It doesn't need to know who her genetic father is. It's sweet. The show can be sweet. Like, I don't dislike the characters. I'm just aware that the world they live in is more conducive of interesting commentary and comedy. I mean, we know they work at a morgue and they're really into their job. This is a piece of world building that tells us things about these characters. The world building is consistent, except for the fact that their version of 7-Eleven is called 9/11, kind of half soft confirming that 9/11 did not happen in this universe. Or maybe happened in July. But then later episode, we find out that 9/11 did in fact happen in this world. In a previous episode, Petey knows Christopher Nolan movies well enough to quote them regularly, but then in a later episode, doesn't know who Christopher Nolan is and thinks they're talking about his dentist, Chris Nolan. Wow, what a mistake. I hope whoever wrote that never finds love ever. You can kind of tell that everyone in this writer's room knows what's up and is well aware of the world around them. Like, it has commentary, but it never falls into new norm territory. Crazy reference name drop in September 2024. Well, I'm writing this month in advance. The entire video could age poorly. Of course, recording this, I know now that they haven't even released a second episode. I didn't kill Pibby, okay? There's commentary, but it never falls into, ooh, kids today are so dumb and wacky. Do you remember when things used to be better? Things are worse now.
Hello, teens. I'm your new teacher, Mr. Fantasy. My pronouns are, as our friend the donkey might say, he, him.
Like, that's really funny. It made me die. I actually cut out the clip earlier, but I think it's important that you guys see the scene of Annie meeting these new friends.
Javi, what's your thing?
I'm into post-colonial feminism, but I don't have a visual signifier for it yet. And long Furbies.
What's your thing, Annie?
Like, how the fuck did they know about Long Furby? Who told them? Most other memes and cartoons are either really outdated or really hyper-specific to their fandom. Like, if you asked me if I liked this show more than YOLO, I'd probably tell you no, just because I prefer, when it comes to cartoons, 11-minute episodes over 22-minute episodes. I know my attention span is shot. I just don't think it fits comedic cartoons. And there's only like one modern show that I'm cool with, and talk about that. And more often than not in this show, the B-plots are not as good as the main ones. But I can tell you that I care about these characters more than I did anyone in YOLO. But why are we pitting two bad bitches against each other? My review of every piece of art will always be watch it, unless it's a game, in which I will say play it. Even if it's something I don't like, I don't think it's a waste of time to try and watch something you might not like. So, like YOLO, watch Teenage Euthanasia. And also watch it when it comes back, if it comes back, if it gets renewed. Really hope this video doesn't age really poorly. Hey, check this out.
Hi, name's Clive. Did I hear weddings off? My kink is jilted brides. Want to rebound right into my
bottom of the ninth, and it's anyone's game.
Yeah, maybe watch Xavier Renegade Angel as well. I don't know. If the purpose of this video is me to talk about modern seasons of older shows that have come out since the last time I talked about Adult Swim 2 years ago, then it would make sense to also talk about the latest seasons of shows as opposed to just talking about shows that have come out since. And the Eric Andre show will not be the last we catch up with. The 20s have been a strange time. Not to toot my own horn. It's a weird thing to brag about, but I think I was the creator most vocal about the cancellation of 3 Busy Debras. Obviously, Tim and Eric are a huge inspiration to me, and the internet was in a public outcry when they canceled Joe Pera. It's interesting that despite Adult Swim very much being a part of the Cartoon Network, technically it's under that umbrella, that their live action shows have been received way better. Probably has something to do with the fact that CN only greenlit game shows and reality television, but I digress. The real Andrew WK was on Aqua Teen that one time. So if whoever is in charge of their television animation division is kneecapping Cartoon Network on purpose and funneling all of that into Adult Swim while pushing it further and further back, then Adult Swim is on track to become the new Cartoon Network. Which makes sense considering the earlier aspects of Adult Swim are now just Toonami and CN reruns. Bring back the Tom with the weird face. That's my Tom. I actually started watching Naruto now because of Toonami Rewind. I said that earlier. Why did nobody tell me this is a kooky classroom comedy with 2 boys who are very clearly in love with each other? I thought it was a dumb action show. Anyway, if they want to dispose of all their live action shows to push forward the medium of animation, I'm all for it. But that makes the continuation of only a show like Eric Andre that much more peculiar. Like, I guess I'd rather have it than not. Most of the creative people that worked on 3 Busy Debras are now absorbed into the Eric Andre team, and they also got their start on that team before moving on to Debras and then back. I'm glad they have a job. But I feel like Eric Andre has outgrown his very late night talk show parody. And I know it's one of their most iconic shows, but they've had bigger hits since. Like, I'm more dumbfounded than anything. It would be a whole lot easier for this video if I could just tell you that the show got bad, but it really didn't. It's about the same quality as I remember it being. Not to clutch my pearls or my Gazgano Comtech dog tag, but in 2023, when the season came out, I know it's 2024 now, because of the book, a lot of the pranks being a sexual situation is happening to people who don't want to be in a sexual situation is... like, call me woke or whatever, but if I got pranked by a dude getting sucked off in front of me and I couldn't leave, I probably wouldn't be too cheesed. That being said, potential car crash, I'm all for. The on-the-street pranks are still just as good.
What's up, Carl Nards? What's up, Carl Nards? Dude, I totally know you. We met at the Quibi funeral. I don't even know who that is.
Like, the quality is still about the same as earlier seasons. You could argue that the loss of Hannibal Buress is felt a lot in this season, but... and I know this is sacrilege, I think the rotation of sidekicks they utilize in this season are really funny and potentially even funnier than Hannibal. And I like Hannibal. Felipe manages to both knock Eric off his feet and also play off each other perfectly. They're riff masters.
He rushed into, where did he rush into? Crimea? Yeah, Crimea River. Am I right, Putin? Anyway, I think he's doing a heck of a job, and guess what? He's still my president.
And then Felipe is replaced by Reese Witherspoon, who is then replaced by Craftbunk, who is then replaced by the Fridge Keeper in the patented Cold episode.
Did you ever get a CVS receipt? Ever go to CVS and get a receipt?
Not what?
Fucking long.
What?
I'm certain you've seen this show, and even if you haven't, I'm sure you've seen clips. I'm not arguing that the show is past its prime, I'm just questioning its necessity. I guess if it doesn't cost the network too much, we get like 5 episodes every 3 years. It doesn't weigh a whole lot on the company. For me, I imagine it's like how most experience the Venture Bros. Like, a new season will be renewed and announced, and then I'll watch it and be like, oh, that was fun. That was funny, and then stop thinking about it, and then 3 years down the line, a new season will come out and I'll be like, oh yeah, I like this show. People have lambasted shows like The Simpsons and SpongeBob for running on too long, but now with the insanely small amount of episodes we're getting in television seasons in the modern era, I don't think it matters that much. Like, season 26 of South Park is 6 episodes long. Are you really gonna complain that it's getting overexposed? It's not even getting regular exposed. If Eric Andre wants to continue making these just out of tradition and the network is on board, probably honestly because the YouTube views they get for individual segments do way better than the show itself. That's something I touched on when I first stepped foot into making long-form videos about this network. They understand the internet better than most. If this show is good for farming clips on YouTube, but not really good for cable television, then yeah, just keep it around. It's like when wrestling fans who care a lot about brand loyalty go on Twitter and say like, this episode only got 1.5 million in the Nielsen ratings. Like, okay, man, I'm watching someone on TikTok react to Monday Night Raw. I'm sorry, I was born in the 2000s, lock me up. I can handle a little bit of absurdist edge.
You worked with Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby. Tell me what it was like to work with two completely unproblematic men.
Not a part of this.
And you wrote a song in '97 called I Can Get Away With Anything. I'm assuming those lyrics were written by Bill Cosby as well? You know what? I think Bill Cosby's innocent, and I think the real murderer is still out there.
I struggled while working on this to remove clips that I liked because I didn't have a whole lot to say about this season, and I don't want it to just be another compilation. By this point in the show's legacy, everyone is kind of in on the joke. Like, you got Jaden Smith and Lil Nas. I guarantee you these two are already fans of the show and know what to expect. Sidebar, they do a bit where fake Jaden Smith is posing on the front of a Nazi magazine, and the Nazi magazine is called Stormfront, which is what I call Nazis in my videos. I probably don't need to anymore because I just said Nazi like 4 times, maybe 5 times, and I think I could probably get away with it. I've gotten over the whole censorship thing. At this point, I don't think I'm ever going to get sponsors. I can just call out Nazis when I see them now. Chet Hanks' Mr. Fuck With Me Friday is also on an episode, but it seems like he's kind of trying to out-weird Eric Andre because he knows about the show, and it just kind of falls flat. The show's fine. I don't think it's wasting anyone's time. If the show only exists for like YouTube shorts, then so be it. Just, again, very confused as to why it's the only live-action show left on the network. All that long essay to say, ladies and gentlemen, Gay Blade.
So I'm just Ladies and gentlemen, Gay Blade.
How do you rewrite a movie 5 times and make 3 directors quit? It's a man in leather who kills vampires. It shouldn't be that hard. Man, if you thought I thought Eric Andre was a waste of time. Everything I am about to say, I want you to know that Aqua Teen Hunger Force is one of my favorite shows of all time and potentially my favorite cartoon. Look at my shirt. I'm just gonna give you the facts. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, under one of his many pseudonyms, was canceled in 2015 after 11 seasons and 14 years on the network. As of early 2022, it was tied with Robot Chicken for the most amount of seasons for an Adult Swim show. 11. The show had gone on for a good number of years, but still aired regularly in reruns. While everyone loves Aqua Teen, nobody, at least to my knowledge, was clamoring for more. That was until a new movie was greenlit alongside other Adult Swim shows, Metalocalypse and The Venture Bros. 2 of these shows have very dedicated fan bases who speculate and theorize about the deep undercurrent lore of this show. And required actual endings, one of these shows already got several endings and is strictly anti-canon. Again, I am saying this as an Aqua Teen fan that has never once watched Metalocalypse. If you showed me these 3 movies and asked me which one deserves a revival the most, Aqua Teen would be at the very bottom of that list. For this new season, there was an online exclusive Aqua Teen show of very, very short episodes that were far too short to be enjoyable. Speaking of too short, I really wanted to do a joke where I said, speaking of too short, and there's just a full shot of me. I guess I'm doing that now by explaining this joke. The season 12 of Aqua Teen we got on Adult Swim is 5 11-minute episodes, do the math, 55 minutes, meaning you could finish that season faster than a viewing of The Room. And I'm not gonna do the animation reviewer thing, cross my arms, and go on an angry tirade about how this ruined the sanctity and legacy of Aqua Teen, because that's impossible. If a bomb threat didn't do it, nothing can. But this is my favorite cartoon of all time, and the most I could feel about these new episodes was apathy. It's not awful. There are good bits I really like.
Telling me Goebbels mispronounces songs?
Impossible.
Impossible.
Ridiculous. The boss is a genius.
It's not Goopus, it's GPS.
Aqua Teen lives and dies by its supporting cast, the weird creatures and characters that show up in the individual episodes to drive the plots. I don't think any of the new characters we meet this season will be nearly as iconic or memorable as its original run. I like that Anubis is voiced by Brian Cox. I'm glad he could squeeze this into his busy schedule between warning onlookers about Grimace and explaining Tekken lore.
That's why when it comes to Tekken and the King of Iron Fist tournament, there's one hell of a story to tell.
Like, I understand the gag of robots who do bad impressions. I just don't fuck with it. Everything I said prior was honest criticism and valid review. What I'm about to say is specific preference that should not be taken seriously or considered critique. All that to say, the fluid animation feels so off. Like, as soon as the new theme song started playing, I saw how fluid the animation in the show was going to look now, and for lack of a better term, it scared me because I'm so used to Aqua Teen looking cheap, looking thrown together. I didn't feel this way when the show first went to widescreen. Why am I feeling it now? It didn't help that the first episode back was set mostly in a digital world with a unique animation style. I don't think saying this show should look worse is a legitimate criticism or should be taken into account legitimately. But still, I never got used to it, and maybe that's because there aren't enough episodes for me to get used to it, but so much of the charm of Aqua Teen is that it looks like shit. I saw Godzilla X Kong, the new one this year, again, Year the Monkey, and I was surprised at how many people liked it because I did not like it. And the most common defense I heard was like, oh, it's just dumb, goofy fun. It's a kaiju movie. Turn your brain off. And the thing about that is, I love kaiju movies. I agree when it looks like shit. Godzilla doing goofy, silly stuff is charming when it's a rubber suit. When I'm looking at two giant masses of computer-generated effects made to look as realistic as possible, it isn't fun or charming. It makes me want to fall asleep. Speaking of movies I've seen this year, how fortuitous that this season contains a Quiet Place parody when I just watched all of those movies. I watched the first Quiet Place movie and the first episode of House of the Dragon back-to-back on a plane ride, and I had to kind of hide my phone because both of those pieces contain a scene of a woman giving birth, and it's pretty graphic, both of them, and I had to like kind of cower because I didn't want someone to look over my shoulder and be like, man, this guy really likes watching women give birth. I guess that's his thing.
Prime in.
Hey, be gone. Faith and begone. You gotta pedal faster if you want to go.
The pedal fell off. I can't.
Oh, you aren't pedaling.
My knees are bumping against. Shut up!
And then they didn't renew the show. What are we doing? If there was ever a more perfect example of how corporate reshuffling fucks up cartoons with new executives coming in and out, the show was greenlit for 5 new episodes, which aired all in 2023, and now it's 2024, and the creators of the show are on Twitter saying, yeah, I think it got canceled. Like, years down the line, we're gonna look back at the entirety of Aqua Teen and be really confused why there were a handful of episodes in the 20s and then never again. In reality, I highly doubt we'll go another 10 years without any Aqua Teen content. I'm certain it will return in some form. I'm not a hater. These 5 episodes were pretty middle of the road Aqua Teen. They didn't upset me. It just didn't make me keel over with laughter. The cast still does a really great job, but what was the point? I say this as someone with a perfect timeline of exclusively loving the show and wearing this shirt. We do not need more Aqua Teen. I'm sure we will get more in the future, and I will continue to eat it up just like it would any other episode. But like Xavier or Home Movies or Frisky, we do not need more seasons to justify their legacy. Some cartoons can just run for 2 seasons and still stand the test of time upon rewatch. I rewatch this show every year, and again, 12 seasons now. I would much rather this time and effort and money be dedicated to something new. Or, you know, another season of the Venture Brothers. This will all be remembered as a strange but enjoyable waste of everyone's time. Ladies and gentlemen, Gay Blade.
You want to impress me? Do Wesley Snipes. You want your snipe hunt? A Wesley Snipes hunt?
That's how you make an iconic character. By repeating yourself. I lied to you all. I lied right to your faces. In several videos last year, I said that I watched Unicorn Warriors Eternal, and it was fantastic. That was all an assumption. I hadn't actually finished it or even gotten that far into it, but it looked quality, at least by the metrics of other people talking about it, so I'm just like, okay, I don't need to finish this, I'm kind of bored. I'll just say it's good, it looks good. I am not above having unpopular opinions. You guys are gonna hear my thoughts on something whether you want to or not. I mean, you're already here. You made it this far. When it comes to video games, even if it's a genre I don't necessarily like, if it's a good game, I'll probably still enjoy. Except for visual novels, but I don't count those as games because they basically aren't. I've gone on rants about people being on their phones while watching a movie, or just attention spans in general, but I will concede, I'll admit, sometimes I have attention problems. Sometimes I'm not as focused as I should be. Sometimes it's hard for me to look only at one screen. As I'm talking to you right now, filming this video, I'm listening to a video in my AirPods to 1, make me louder, and 2, keep me from going crazy and only hearing my own voice. It's why I perfect example. It's why I misspeak so often. I mentioned before that as a kid, I didn't really like action cartoons, but I assumed this was a thing of the past. I like Invincible. I'm gonna talk about Superman very shortly, but then I watched X-Men 97 earlier this year and thought, everyone said this was good. I'm supposed to like this. Why don't I like this? Is something wrong with me? So really the question here is Unicorn Warriors Eternal really boring, or do I just not like action cartoons? As I'm recording this right now, I haven't finished the new Batman show, but again, I'm like halfway through and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really care. Initially, I thought this genre just wasn't my cup of tea, but then I realized, wait, no, I do like some action shows. What makes them stand out, what makes them different, what makes them count is the aforementioned shows like Invincible and Superman have these action scenes that are driven by well-established characters and not driven by, wouldn't this thing look cool? And don't get me wrong, this show does look cool. It's downright beautiful. But looking at it isn't enough. I can't just put it on a screensaver. I have to feel something. The show is created by Genndy Tartakovsky, creator of various things that are good. But I've never had this problem with his shows before. Maybe it's because Clone Wars already uses well-established characters to a child. I don't think the movies actually establish Anakin and Obi-Wan that well. And while Symbionic Titan does have a lot of world building and deep lore, it's also a fish out of water story set on Earth in the modern day. I know Earth in the modern day. That's where I live. Of course, I talk about cartoons on the internet, so this has never happened to me, but I get it. Or rather, I don't get it. Samurai Jack is held up as one of, at least from the 90s, one of the best cartoons when it comes to world building, but that has less to do with the deep lore and more to do with creating iconic characters. I said it earlier, I think writers who focus only on world building are hacks. Like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings work because they are driven by iconic characters that resonate with people, and not because there's a book of every piece of technology in the world or Wikipedia articles. I don't think world building is inherently negative. I actually think it is important to the lifeblood of longevity. But when you're a dungeon master who is so interested in writing years and years of ongoing lore and world building that you forget to write a compelling character. What I'm saying is Unicorn Warriors Eternal Season 1 feels like a pitch and not in a good way. Look, it's steampunk London 1890. Look, now we're in the past. Now we're in the future. Now we're in a different realm. Now we're in an elvish kingdom. It works for a show like Adventure Time because each new locale has iconic characters tied to these locations. Unicorn has Fox Lady, Elf Guy, furries. I'm gonna do the best to explain the plot of this show, so spoilers ahead. Maybe get you ready for season 2. I don't think there will be one. I'm just gonna read this all from my notes verbatim. There's this elvish prince Edred who is set to marry an elf from the east or something. He's from the north. This will bring peace to their nations. He's also been blessed with a sword given to him by the Heart of the Forest, some ogres, and given a sacred vow to vanquish evil or something. But he escapes his own arranged wedding because he has fallen for another. This another is Melinda, a magical woman who was once a magical little girl raised by Merlin, like actual Merlin. They also mention Excalibur in this show, but I'm unsure if it actually exists in this universe. She was gifted magic by her wizard father, and when her mother, Morgan, finds out, she snaps and attempts to take the magic for herself, or she's protecting her daughter. It's a little unclear. The disappearance of her mother only manages to make her power stronger, and she becomes dark and brooding and goth now. Edred and Melinda fall in love and run away together, and at some point they meet a monk named Sang. A robot named Copernicus that was developed by a mechanic at Auto Industries is created in the far-off future. He is the heart of the show. There's a couple episode arc where he's broken and they need to fix him, and that's about where I checked out. Anyway, he travels to the past for some reason. These four venture into the cosmic realm to fight an ultimate evil that keeps returning. This evil can turn statues into living beings, which it does in episode 2 with penis guys.
So strange. It appears that the glow that breathes life into the statues is the same as the pachyderm from the previous day.
The story is told out of order, by the way, so we don't know any of this while going through the show. Merlin realizes that this ultimate evil will continue to come back, so he casts a spell or a curse or something that will make it so even after death, the Unicorn Warriors will return. They will become eternal. How this works is every generation Copernicus shows up to blast random bystanders with the spirits of Sang, Melinda, and Edred, basically killing them. It happened in the past with two people who would have children, and these children believed they are entitled to the next line of powers, even when they are not, and it's why they look like the Unicorn Warriors. One of these grown-up kids is voiced by Grey Delilah Griffin. Credit to Gendy, he knows game. But the show actually begins with an aristocrat named Emma, who is getting ready to her marriage to this guy named Winston. Remember earlier when I said Copernicus was the heart of the show? Well, Winston is my favorite. Yeah, Emma, like from Stoked, like from Total Drama, like from H2O, Just Add Water. Why does this name keep repeating for me? Anyway, her wedding day is ruined and her life is stolen as her body is taken over by the spirit of Melinda, but for some reason, this time around, the power is weaker. When Edred takes over the body of a charlatan magician, and Sang takes over the body of a orphaned child, they've lost some of their memories that they slowly get back over time. Meanwhile, the curse didn't work all the way for Melinda, as Emma is still somewhere in there and refuses the call to action. I will say most of the show is about the internal struggle between Emma and Melinda as they both learn something about each other's past, and this is compelling. I actually did like this. Emma is like the only salvageable character here. Oh, and Winston. He becomes a werewolf.
Every time the moon is full, it happens. I lose control and I become just like that savage creature. Oh, hell, what is this? What's this?
You were naked, so Copernicus made you a diaper.
Study.
Which eventually just becomes being a full-time anthropomorphic wolf. Like, he ceases to be a guy after this. They throw out time skips pretty willy-nilly in the show. It would put House of the Dragon to shame. Like, there's 2 in the last 2 episodes. Time moves faster in the cosmic realm, so when they send Sang there and then show up later, he is now a fully grown orphan. Do you cease being an orphan once you become an adult? Because you wouldn't have parents anyway.
Fisherman found me when I was 19 years old. He named me Lawrence, and he raised me.
You know, by 19, you really should have been pretty much raised.
Yeah, but...
And named.
That's fair. That's more than fair.
And then in these last 2 episodes, Emma is separated from Melinda and sent back to her home. She finally gets what she wants. She goes home and gets to refuse the call, but by this point in the story, she is invested in saving the world. Also, her fiance is still in the cosmic realm and also a dog guy now. She returns to the cosmic realm later that day thanks to another charlatan. As much as I complain about over-reliance on world building and how it falls flat, I do like the little detail that all magic in this world is a scam. Like, they outlaw magic in this steampunk London when they see what they deem the witch. Anyway, she returns to the cosmic realm, and now 4 years have passed for them. Sure, second time skip. Luckily, nothing at all changed in that time. Okay, so who cares? Why did that matter at all? It turns out the Fox Girl, I didn't really talk about her. There's a Fox Girl. She is both fox and girl. She was the ultimate evil the whole time. And also the ultimate evil contains Melinda's mother and Merlin's wife. Really funny that Merlin named his daughter Merlinda. And then this 10-episode season of 22-minute episodes, actually one of those episodes is 33 minutes for some reason. Just randomly in the middle of the season, not even the finale, this season of nearly 4 hours ends on a cliffhanger. Now the whole world is fucked up. It seems every place and time has been put together in this giant time bubble like Doctor Who. And now, and only now, they have the motivation to work together and go save Merlinda's mother. They truly are Unicorn Warriors Eternal. Okay, so the show starts now, I guess. Everything I just told you, that full thing of setup was all season 1. Maybe this will be a Dune and Total Drama situation where part 2 will be exponentially better than the first, but I think the flaws run a little deeper. Also, apparently we're getting more primal. I don't know, man. If they do make more, I hope they get to build off of this and work more on the characters, as I like the setups of some of these dynamics, mostly with the complicated love triangle. Copernicus and Sang are just both bit characters. I feel like this could have been a movie. Don't get me wrong though, a TV movie, since this is all made to set up season 2, which could have been the show. Jimmy Neutron style, but a movie nonetheless. Actually, a more apt comparison would probably be Samurai Jack when the first couple episodes were put together as a TV movie. It would cut out so much unnecessary fluff and generic world building and probably make it flow a lot better. But what do I know? I never made Clone Wars. If you think I was unfair to this show and I'm showing my biases, you're really not gonna like this next part. Ladies and gentlemen, Gay Blade. Let's get something straight right now. I've talked about the same topic before, like the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek, and the story beats Wars took from Dune. Dune and Star Trek are prototypical science fiction. It's right in your face. Star Wars is fantasy wearing a science fiction coat. Like, if you look at the story being told and the classic story beats, it has more in common with ancient fantasy stories than anything to do with those books. Also, Seven Samurai. Can't forget the Hidden Fortress. Similarly, Rick and Morty gets compared to a show like Futurama, which is written by actual geniuses and near actual scientists about science fiction concepts. Rick and Morty is not that. Rick and Morty are storytelling devices, even within the show. Like, even early on, I feel like people missed the point that this show was basically just Robot Chicken with overarching characters. The show is not science fiction. It's what if we did Jurassic Park, but inside a body? What if Freddy Krueger was annoying? More annoying. So a good season of Rick and Morty, at least to me, is marked by how good the individual episode concepts are. This is gonna clash with what I said about Aqua Teen and Eric Andre, like, oh, do we really need more? But I'll be honest, I really like this show. Every time the show goes away, I forget this and let the internet tell me how to feel about it. Like, yeah, we all hate it. And then the show comes back and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then I watch it and remember, oh yeah, I really like this show. Does that mean every episode has me laughing out loud? No. But if a bi-yearly season means I get 2 or 3 episodes I really like, then so be it. In a way, ironically, actually a lot like modern Futurama. It doesn't necessarily need to exist, but as long as there's something good, something I like, I can look past the mediocrity. Since we're already talking about my previous Adult Swim videos, season 7 is the first season recorded with a new cast after the voice actor for characters like Rick, Morty, Mr. Poopy Butthole was replaced right off the bat in the first episode.
This is a great place to celebrate my birthday. Birthday, 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 birthday.
Your birthday.
Oh!
Justin Roiland, by all accounts, was really difficult to work with, and if Dan Harmon is the one saying you're difficult to work with, then you know you're fucked. There's just something specific I want to comment on. A lot of people, right after the allegations dropped, immediately went to Justin's old work and said there were signs. This happens every time a bad dude gets outed. A bunch of people come out of the woodwork and say, I always knew. I always had a bad feeling about him. Okay, then why didn't you do anything? I always had a bad vibe about him. If the Predator was ugly and, say, made a cartoon about swords, then everyone can say, of course he was a predator. He's ugly, which is problematic, to say the least. Damn, Aaron Hansen got some pretty bad luck. Anyway, I saw a lot of people pointing to The Adventures of Doc and Marty, saying that Justin was always a creep because the cartoon shows Marty sucking Doc's balls. And I don't want to defend Justin because fuck that guy, but come on. This makes him a predator. Newgrounds level of vulgarity and shock value, that was the smoking gun. It's not really relevant to my review of the show. Andrew's going on another angry Twitter tirade like he runs the country. It's just something that really irked me. Oh no, what does this mean for the Fishhooks reunion? Anyway, there was a large amount of hysteria about who would take on these iconic roles and if they could live up to Justin's performance, and then the new season came out and it was relatively unnoticeable. Maybe sometimes early on, Morty's voice sounds a little bit off, but these new guys knock it out of the park. And I don't mean they're good at doing impressions or fart jokes. I mean there's an emotionally charged performance halfway through the season, and call me cringe, call me whatever, call me lame, it legitimately gave me chills. Like the evil Morty choir needle drop in the previous season. The more I think about it and talk about it, I'm like, fuck, I love this show. For a while, this show seemed to think that all everyone cares about was lore, canonicity, moving the story forward. I see this problem a lot discussing a show like Steven Universe, which I've brought up a lot today, where people take the plot too literally. These plot points do not matter because of lore implications, they matter because of the character progression within them. Similarly, there are plots about Eye Patch Morty and Rick Prime that have been engaging to watch throughout all of these seasons. But more important, at least to me, is the aftermath of these moments and how they impact the characters in the show. If I had to give this season a review as a whole, it would be like solid half and half, like a 50 or a 60. There are episodes about Rick finally ending his long longtime nemesis, and there are episodes about his ex-hive mind coming back, and we get to see how much Rick has grown. I could really make a whole video defending this show, but I think its public perception has been ruined. Not by Pickle Rick or TikToks, but by people misunderstanding the text. It's ironic, I know, not to be like that one guy, oh, you have to have a high IQ, but legitimately, some of you guys are not perceptive. You don't need to be smart to analyze and understand these things. I'm not smart. You just have to pay attention, or, you know, actually watch the show. Redditors will quote Rick and align with his apathy and cynicism, and people, onlookers, will see this and believe that's what the show is saying. Meanwhile, if you watch the show, everything in it is screaming Rick is miserable, and it's this mindset that's keeping him miserable. There's an episode in this season, a concept I really like, where he gets Jerry bits in his brain, which makes him ever so slightly dumber, and he immediately becomes way more happy and fulfilled and doesn't want to go back.
Beautiful day to be carrying glass, huh? I can't believe a dying kid would wish for a window.
This is not subtext. They say this as loud as they can. You should not be like Rick. That's not what the show is saying, just like you shouldn't be like Cartman or Bojack. And yet time and time again, we keep circling back. Oh, that cynicism show about how being cynical is awesome and based. I'm gonna talk about Happy Fellas later, but I keep seeing Wojax and also the scene from the Frowning Friends episode kind of showing Rick and Morty as overwhelmingly negative when it has some of the most heartwarming moments I've seen from a modern cartoon. Just open your hearts a little bit. I promise you'll love it as much as I do, or at least be angry about it as much as I am. People only think they know this show, because when that Jeffrey Dahmer clip was shared all around Twitter after that episode went up, people were saying, oh, wait a minute, is this show good again? It never stopped being good. You just have to look past all the incest stuff. I'm sensing a pattern with these shows. That fake clip show episode actually has a lot of gags I like, but I have to focus on one.
I did it, Morty! I killed the versions of us that were in Space Jam! Help me with the bodies! Wow! How'd you do it, Rick? It was easy, Morty. They welcomed death. They wanted out, Morty!
That's what I'm talking about. The episode concepts are fueling the show. The characters are just pushing it along. There's an entire episode that's apparently a deep Total Recall reference. I haven't seen the movie. Surprise, I didn't like this episode, but you get my point. They can't all be winners. There's also an episode that really only exists to call back to season 1, and so Dan Harmon can make his really bad Ice-T impression again, and then also have the real Ice-T on as a guest voice. But that episode is actually more focused on Morty's math teacher for some reason.
You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this! Ah, got you again, motherfucker! Wow, you think that guy's cousin would stop taking his calls?
That's not the point, Morty.
You included it in your story.
But the season finale where Rick and Morty delve into the fear hole, you think it's strange at first that the big finale-esque episode happened in episode 5 halfway through the season. And the actual finale is just a concept episode. A really good episode concept, mind you. But the episode is a character study hidden inside a tale about the fear of happiness, the fear of moving on, what living even means. It's legitimately one of my favorite episodes of this show, and definitely my favorite episode of the season, and this is season like 7. While I was on a trip the same time I watched the fart episode of Total Drama, I just turned on TV and it was playing the Story Train episode, which I'd remembered from like seasons prior, but I totally like forgot how I felt about it. And as I was watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I really like this episode. Rick and Morty is very hit or miss. I could say at the very least I've never been bored. It's either really good or really bad, but that's not true. A lot of these episodes are kind of boring. I've definitely been bored several times. But if we get 10 episodes like every other year, and even 2 of them are really good, like top of their class Rick and Morty episodes. All of that to say, I guess I could overlook a story that's just references I don't understand and another long plot about incest. Again, it may sound weird that I'm being kinder to this season than I am the season of Aqua Teen, but the thing about Aqua Teen is that I hold it to a much higher standard of mediocrity. Like, I don't think Rick and Morty is nearly as funny as Aqua Teen is, but I'm not emotionally invested in any of those fast food characters. I don't want Carl to find love, and I don't want Master Shake to find the acceptance he wants. I want them to be miserable forever. It's funny. That's why I'm fine with constant seasons of this as opposed to something like Aqua Teen, which I'm pretty sure got canceled anyway, so I don't know why it's in this video. It's not like I talked about Bird Girl in depth. That shit is long gone. I will say though, upon my rewatch, even within the episodes I find boring, Rick and Morty is really good at silent, somber montages. Like, there are 1 or 2 in the early seasons, like the Moon Man and the episode that ends with Rick trying to drink himself to death. The show is dark, but not in a try-hard, edgy way. Anyway, they do those montages a lot this season. I actually kind of think they overdo it. Like, all of these are fine back to back, and maybe I would have been more passable if I watched them weekly like I normally do, but for this video, I just watched one a day, and by the third one that comes around, you start to groan. Like the episode where they find a planet where suicides make delicious spaghetti, and then the planet itself finds a way to commercialize it.
Wall-to-wall reality television, but not the good kind. It's like their whole planet was bought by Discovery.
Which could mean nothing. By the way, while I'm writing this, I got word that Warner Bros. Discovery is apparently considering splitting them into 2 separate companies. So, the way it was before the corporate merger. Glad we all learned our lesson. It's how things were before the merger, except somehow with less money. All right, let's talk about Superman. And I'm not just talking about the cartoon, which I did like. I wasn't sure if I would. I mean, with all the factors working against it. It's an action cartoon, which has to do a lot of heavy lifting to get me on board. See previously, Unicorn Warriors Eternal from this video, and Clone Wars from Clone Wars video. And it's heavily anime inspired. Like, I know there's a huge debate on how to categorize a show like Avatar or Voltron or Rick and Morty, the anime. But I noticed how anime inspired it was. You can tell because the show is very horny in a way that most Western cartoons just aren't. Also, how every robot in the show looks like Evangelion. Even just the super suits, very angular, very sharp. If you touch them, you will bleed. Which, you're not gonna believe this, but would you imagine I don't fuck with these designs? It doesn't help that these robots are often animated in CG in this 2D show, which can be done well, but more often than not, it looks like a special episode of Fairly Odd Parents. I'm not super well versed in the comics, so I don't know if this was a previous power or if one they gave him for the show. But they give Superman, who's already really strong, but not too strong to be invincible, like the show Invincible, they give him the live-action Sonic the Hedgehog electricity power. When he's full of emotion, he transforms into a stronger Superman with glowing aura surrounding him. Goku. And last of all, on the long list of things I thought would work against the show I ended up liking, it's Superman. You see, I had believed most of my life that Superman was boring, that you can't make a Superman story interesting, that he is fundamentally flawed as a character concept. I was born in 2001 and didn't like a lot of action cartoons growing up, so my first exposure to Superman, the character proper, was the IHOP movie. A lot of time people ask me who I get the most inspiration from, like for these videos, who I take after the most, who I base it on the most, and previously I had a whole lot of answers. But I've since narrowed it down to 3 series, one of which I'd argue maybe the main one was the Spoilers Ahead series hosted by Lyle McDouchebag, and the first video I watched of his is where he talked about Man of Steel, and the other 2 are Obsessive Pop Culture Disorder and Sequelitis. Sorry, not sorry. So I thought Superman was lame even as a kid. I think I got out of my edgy phase, like I got it out of my system really early on as a kid, because I had access to the internet and also was watching Family Guy in kindergarten. And by edgy, I mean like gore, grimdark. Anyone that was on YouTube in 2016 as a teenager will tell you that that edge did not go away. So later on, I never really wanted Superman to be cool or epic or edgy. I just wanted him to be fun. I've gone on record saying I have no nostalgia for Tobey Maguire or Patrick Stewart or Hugh Jackman. My first superhero movie I saw in theaters was Iron Man 3. And then I saw Thor 2, and then I saw Winter Soldier, and I didn't recognize how boring Thor 2 was as a kid. And then I sat my white ass down in 2014 and saw a little movie called Guardians of the Galaxy. You guys know they make DVDs in blue flavor? I don't care if it revokes my cinephile film card, all right? That is one of my Letterboxd top 4 movies of all time. Maybe actually the third one instead. I can't do both. Up there with WALL-E and Everything Everywhere and maybe Black Swan. I, like most, have been very staunch in falling out of love with these superhero properties, except for the aforementioned Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And Loki. And Moon Knight. And most of WandaVision. And I like Falcon and the Winter Soldier until the end. And I thought Multiverse of Madness was fun. I didn't hate Ant-Man. Of course, I like Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought the new Spider-Man was fun. Black Panther 2 was good. Do I not like these movies anymore? So obviously, I am entirely checked out until they do some major reshuffling. And even before the fatigue, as I mentioned earlier in our timeline, I could not have given less of a shit about the DC superhero movies. I thought my opinion was set in stone as a 15-year-old. Marvel is cool and DC is gay. You can't change my mind no matter what they do. They can never make a good movie. And then I like Joker for the most part. I'm honestly more excited for the sequel. The Batman was good. Speaking of adding the to a title to make it better, one of my favorite cape flicks maybe of all time, maybe one of the best ones actually, The Suicide Squad, which was dropped on Max during the pandemic. It was directed by one James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy and Lollipop Chainsaw Massacre and the live-action Scooby-Doo films. I can at the very least say he's never made something that didn't resonate with me and was boring. He's never once been boring, at the very least. And then I kept seeing TikTok set to Starman of a guy in a Superman suit hugging children and helping old ladies cross the street. And I saw memes about how good it feels to be good. And then I kept seeing behind the scenes images, which they're definitely leaking on purpose, of a new young Superman. And then the final nail in the coffin, a Superman show that I really like. In an edgy era of superheroes are evil and bad and fucked up, actually, that's not a knock at Invincible and The Boys. Injustice is pretty bad. Really funny and ironic that Jack Quaid, the actor who portrays Yui, not only voices the Superman on the Superman cartoon, but also auditioned for the new live-action Superman under James Gunn's tutelage. He didn't get it. Instead, he just got a new season of his character being raped for 3 episodes while they point and laugh at him and blame him for it. You know what? Maybe I don't like this show anymore. Fun fact, Supergirl, Kara, who was introduced in the 2nd season of My Adventure with Superman, I'm gonna be talking about both seasons, is voiced by Hannah from My Babysitter's a Vampire. Remember? The one that uses the evil camera to make evil clones of herself and Benny. I talked about this show 2 years ago. Time flies when white paint seeps into your skin. Like Euthanasia and YOLO, but unlike Eric Andre and Rick and Morty, I'm just gonna talk about both seasons because they have both come out since our timeline has began. But my long-winded point, I know it seems like it's unrelated to the show, but it's actually high praise for the show, that this cartoon alone has won me over on the concept of Superman, making me excited for a DC cape flick in 2025. That Fantastic Four movie's getting delayed. I hear executives and marketers and turn up my nose and say, like, you can't trick me into watching something. No way these algorithms actually work. But all it took for me to like a Superman story was for them to make him my exact age. This is a Superman filled with anxiety and self-hate because Superman is a Superman, but a man nevertheless. Making him a painless god is not interesting. Not only does he regularly get his ass kicked by Jerry from Rick and Morty, who's voicing the character who made all of Teen Titans happen, like behind the scenes. See, I did watch some action cartoons, I just really only cared about the episode where she turns into a rabbit. But he's constantly wrought with the feeling of being other, being different, and everyone judging him for being so. Which is perfectly built upon in season 2 with the introduction of his cousin, who wasn't raised as a human, so doesn't understand that side of it, and the rise of young upstart tech whiz Alex Luthor. We also get Kara, Supergirl, his cousin, development as she grows closer to Jimmy and learns about Earth's ways through that. I think all these action cartoons go back to me just like, I like Steven Universe.
Jimmy's gonna lose it when he finds out an alien has a crush on him.
I will not crush him. I will simply conquer his planet.
Not to switch gears, but there's apparently been a lot of noise about Gen Z killing violets in movies and sex on TV. That's a very vague descriptor used to encapsulate a problem people have with a lack of romance. Do I mind seeing Matt Smith's naked ass in House of the Dragon? No. Do I get insecure every time they show a male ass in a movie or TV show and they're all perfectly shaven and waxed? A little bit. Dragon D's nuts, am I right, fellas? Dude, nobody wants to sponsor me, but if I don't think I could say Manscaped by name, but this would be the perfect time to just And I fear that sometimes I've portrayed myself as a prude or someone that hates love and romance when it comes to fiction, despite bringing up shipping a lot in these videos. Regardless of how I personally feel on the matter, or rather the natter, Dragon D's nuts. My Adventure with Superman, at the very end of the day, is a love story between Lois Lane and Clark Kent. And the show would not work if they did not work. But they do. They're cute. I like them. See, I can like straight couples too. Okay, time for more Twitter discourse. I know that's why you came to this video. Most people's exposure initially to this show is this scene where Lois Lane finds out that Clark is likely Superman after several hints.
You think he's a plane?
It kinda looks like a bird.
No!
So she jumps off this building, forcing him to out himself to save her, and then afterwards she gets really mad at him for not telling her. First of all, could you imagine if she was wrong? Poor Clark, changing the trajectory of his life. The argument on Twitter was, who is in the wrong here? And by that I mean, to what degree was Lois wrong? Because I think people believed, after not watching the show and only seeing this clip, that the show itself, My Adventure with Superman, was portraying Lois as 100% in the right and not a very morally gray situation. Just a clear indicator that these dudes did not watch this show. And I know they didn't watch the show because if they did, then I know they definitely would have been mad at the amount of gay characters and gay couples within this cartoon. As much as I don't like their designs, as mentioned previously, this is the first time Superman's Rogues Gallery has really hooked me. Like, I didn't really care about Batman either, but at least like, oh, but the villains, they're so cool. They even bring in Mr. Mixik-Pitalik, who normally looks like this in the comics, but in the cartoon looks like this. He does a bunch of multiverse stuff in his episode, and I know you may hear superheroes in the term multiverse and like audibly groan, but when it comes to animation, they do it pretty well.
Nice try, sport, but Clark is Superman in almost every reality. This Earth, Earth 12, Earth 50, Earth 508, weird Earth. That works.
How did you... Was I a crab?
I mean, everyone loves Spider-Verse just before they overdid it. If I cared more about the intellectual property of Superman and the way the story is meant to be told, then maybe I would have a complaint that the first time he hears the word Krypton is from this being, and the first time the other people get their hands on kryptonite is from a different universe that they multiversal travel to, but I don't care that much. It is sweet that Lois Lane and Clark Kent Superman are always together in every single universe in the multiverse. Like, he never once meets a different girl. What about the time the pink kryptonite made him gay? Anyway, back to my point, this show does not portray Lois Lane as being in the right here. Because in the exact next episode, Jimmy reveals that he also knew Clark was Superman, but wasn't going to say anything until Clark was ready to tell him as a friend. Directly juxtaposing how Lois went about it. I'm pretty sure in that scene, the camera even pans over to her. Earlier, I said this show's about love. It's a love story, but it's not just Lois and Clark. It's also about the friendship, how much Jimmy and Clark love each other. He's in there too.
Can't grant human interest. If it's not real news, then tell me all about it.
Ronnie Drew, investigative journalist, a little patronizing, but mostly professional.
Steve. Sports.
The three of them work so well together. Now, this may shock you. I know, put on your big boy pants. Adults are sometimes bad to each other. Like, I know we're all on the internet and you can't fuck up even once lest you be labeled the Scarlet P for problematic for being a human person. Lois Lane is manipulative and controlling and constantly oversteps boundaries, and this all stems from her being incredibly insecure. Also abandonment issues, hell yeah. But this does not make her Hitler, it makes her human. Not to make a whole thing about it, don't label me woke or whatever, but it is insane that for the internet not to want to murder a female character, she must be a perfect Jesus all the time. Lois acts on her feelings and ends up hurting her friends. But guess what? So does Clark, and so does Jimmy, and so do I, and so do you. But honestly, I probably do it more than you do, let's be real. If I scare them away, then they can't leave me. It's that simple. Anyway, cry about it, go away. On the other side of the coin, I saw a lot of people who were trying to protect Lois from these weird people who were being very strange on the internet. But they overcorrected in doing so and said Lois did nothing wrong, which, no. She doesn't need to be an upstanding beacon of morality. She did a shitty thing. It doesn't make the show bad. If anything, it makes it far more nuanced than I had originally thought was possible for this show. The fucking Superman show that was supposed to be on the Cartoon Network has you guys this worked up. And by the way, this is not even like top 3 worst things she does in this show. But guess what? She's 23 and she lives in comic book New York. What did you expect? I didn't want such a large percentage of my review, of my analysis to be an argument, but I think it's both important to understanding the show and also extending an olive branch to the people who may have been on the fence about it and have probably only ever seen the show through this clip. Clark and Lois have so much love and understanding for each other. And yeah, he's insecure, and yeah, she's impulsive, but they don't view these as flaws. They view them as them. And they love each other not in spite of it, but because of it. And I think that's beautiful. Also, Ma and Pa Ken are really cute. I like them in this. In a show full of daddy issues, it's nice to see the parents that stepped up. Do you really need me to talk about this? I've got a decent amount of comments asking me what I think about the show and begging me to talk about it, but like, why? I understand that you guys want my opinion on thing, but when a thing is good, it's just good. Sorry I don't have an earth-shattering reveal or a nuanced take. I think the show is funny. But what we can talk about is the marketing and how iconic the show has become. My favorite clips will be dispersed throughout this section with reckless abandon.
Guys, knock it off!
Hey, sorry, I'm back.
Regardless on if they're relevant to what I'm saying or not. And again, I'm going to be talking about the first 2 seasons like I did with the previous show. Also, I tried to pick bits purposefully that don't normally get shared around because this show is popular. And I don't just mean popular for an Adult Swim show popular. I mean popular as in the most popular adult animated show right now. Popular. We're on the precipice of a potential global phenomenon. You know that chart of every decade's iconic yellow guy? I think we're on the precipice of the decade of Charlie Dompler. Can I show this or will the green screen like fuck it up? Because people really, really like Charlie. And also, this is the show I associate most with the 20s. The first episode aired as a part of Adult Swim's April Fool's broadcast in April 2020. And then we got the rest of season 1 2 years later in 22, and then season 2 in its entirety in 2024. If they keep up this consistent pace of 26 and 28, assuming that the seasons are received just as well, this could be the cartoon of the decade. And the reason I say received as well and not are good is because the internet is fickle. And by that, I just mean Twitter, more or less. Because this show is everywhere. Earlier, I said I'm gonna pick clips that don't normally get shared around because clips of this show get shared around.
Was that man dying a faux, Charlie?
I don't know, Pim. I don't know.
Almost every episode in season 2 created an iconic audio or meme that went all around TikTok and Instagram. And then I would watch these clips and then go in the comments and see a bunch of people saying, please make more, because they're unaware this is a TV show on television. So whatever gets the show to reach the masses. When it comes to the internet, I'm very defensive. I definitely do not want kids engaging with me when it comes to streams or videos or anything like that, right? They can go in their own space, just leave me alone. But with Adult Swim shows, I feel a sense of pride, and I'm not as embarrassed when I'm like, oh man, kids really like this show, because I was a kid watching Adult Swim. The difference is my enjoyment of Adult Swim when I was like 6 did not involve me being able to directly message the creator of the show and be like, hey, that show you did 2 years ago that you don't like making, do that one instead. This is getting very personal. I know I already touched on this, but I believe truly that the reason all these episodes were able to reach their full potential is because they were aired weekly. The first season, sans the pilot and the Brazil special, were kind of shadow drops within the same night, and the show is quotable and hilarious and iconic and stands the test of time. So each episode did stand on its own, but that's more of a testament to the show's quality than it is the hand it was dealt. I like seeing everyone post about Gwimbly for a week until the next episode comes along. It's a fun fandom experience. I would say, hey, don't ever release an entire season all at once ever again, but I'm sure Adult Swim already knows this. But also, you know, maybe air the show throughout the fall. Both of the seasons, all of their seasons, have each had a respective Halloween and Christmas episode, and they always air in late spring. The Brazil episode was supposed to be an April Fool's special, but instead it aired in August.
I vote we go see the big Jesus first.
Alan, I think you mean Christ the Redeemer, dude.
Oops, my mistake. I just think of it as the big Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
What is this, season 1 of Steven Universe? I've been thinking about that show a lot lately. Wait, what? Because the show is good and popular, of course people on Twitter are turning against it. A lot of this video is just me complaining about Twitter. This could have been a tweet. I would say I need to go outside, but I don't know how to get out of here. And also, I lost my keys. Between people wanting to fuck Charlie Dompler hard style and wanting Pim to kiss him, which he often does, the little freak loves kissing things, I think a large reason as to why the show has been received so well by so many different groups of very different fandoms is because the show is not wholesome, but cute.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm still processing the fact that Bill Nye, the freaking science guy, just passed on, and we saw it. I was like the biggest fan of a show. I knew the theme song, Bill Nye. I'm not gonna do it, but yeah, I'm like a mega fan, so that was hard to watch.
A while back, a bunch of Adult Swim pitches and pilots leaked out, and we learned that Smiling Friends initially looked like this, which is more in line with the animators, the creators of the show's internet style, and it does fit in better with a lot of the other quote ugly Adult Swim shows. I say ugly in quotations because they look like that on purpose. It's an artistic choice. I don't think it would have been nearly as popular if it looked like this. My little baby sister watches this show. She's 20, but you know what I mean. She FaceTimed me one day to tell me how much she thought she was like Glep. This is awesome. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you know my take on most video games, you know I prefer something cutesy and cartoony, scrimblow bimblow over dark and gray, grayish mush, hyper-realistic.
All right, Gwimbly, you can sleep here.
No, Alan, we still need to, like, do stuff to help him. That's what Charlie and I usually do on these missions. Arg.
But a lot of people have seen this show's trajectory, the way it's gotten really popular with the middle of season 2 going into season 3, and think we might be on a path to Rick and Morty, which is not true. The most obsessed fans are not mirroring Rick and Morty, although it's an easy comparison to make since that was the last Adult Swim show before this that got really popular. This has more in common with the way people treat South Park. He would not fucking say that. Let the kids do whatever they want. Who cares if they identify as Alan, all right? I used to make wrestling OCs and then write stories about them fighting. Or leave them alone. People often say, why are there no spaces on the internet for kids? And then you're all up in kids' business. You know you can block people, right? Like, it doesn't have to be for a solid reason. You could just find them annoying or like, I don't want to see this anymore.
Pick some crap off the floor and...
Oh, okay.
What?
Oh, I was just saying okay.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
I don't think this was a misfire or misunderstanding of the show. I wouldn't call what the show is saying wholesome. It's not a wholesome show, but it is earnest. The reason so many people compare it to Rick and Morty and like say it's better than Rick and Morty is because they think that show is about cynicism and nihilism, which again, it isn't. But it's an interesting point because not only in an episode of the show did they fight actual nihilists, but the characters in the show, even if it is for a joke, constantly talk openly about how much they love each other and show that affection openly. Is the kissing and the affection and the care in the show played as a joke? Sure, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I'm struggling to talk about aspects of the show that haven't been talked about before. This is why I want to talk about the marketing because I find it really interesting. I think fandom as a whole is an interesting concept. But again, the show is good.
I do believe in destiny. Oh my gosh, are you okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I think I just had a bad batch of worms earlier.
Hard to root for a major company, but it's a company I love, damn it, the Adult Swim parts. Adult Swim isn't responding to Smiling Friends' popularity by milking it for all it's worth or greenlighting a dozen spinoffs. They're using its popularity to get eyes on their newer shows. While I was writing this, and potentially before it goes up, Adult Swim announced that they'd be picking up series Haha You Clowns, created by Joe Cappo, who's created a ton of other iconic animated short films in the past. Also, Comic-Con happened, and it was almost entirely Smiling Friends themed, at least on the Adult Swim side. And also wrestling. Sarah from YOLO fought Willow Nightingale, Ultra's favorite. Also, Meatwad and Rick and Mr. Frog were there. It was sick. I hope they partner with AEW more in the future. I can't wait for their Max partnership to actually go through so Peacemaker can show up on AEW television.
Tell her how smart she is for coming up with all this.
Oh no, stop! You're embarrassing me! Oh, stop! Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, you're very nice.
red.
Speaking of internet talent, if this video acts as an amalgamation of all my previous Adult Swim videos, like 2 months ago's Total Drama video, the beginning of the Summer of Ultra, acted as an end to the trilogy of Total Drama videos. In the original Natter Chamber video that started the new era in 2021, I split Adult Swim into a couple different categories. One of these categories was the network's symbiotic relationship with internet content creators and talent, and Smiling Friends has only strengthened this.
You can't do that. You'll crash the economy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Everybody's gonna have to give back all that money to the government. By the way, sorry about those loud noises. That was just from my diaper. I don't want to have another accident from the bad lamp. All better.
Shortly after the release of all the episodes in season 1, a lot of videos were made, some of which by people I'm friends with, that were like every hidden cameo, every Easter egg in Smiling Friends like it's a Marvel movie. And most of these videos were wrong, like very much so. I don't know how you hear this devil's voice and can't immediately tell it's Zach. He has a very iconic twang. Red Letter Media, Chills, David Firth, Harry Partridge, James Rolfe, Tom Falk, Doug Walker, Perry Caravello, Almost Christine.
Charlie, you like our menu, right? Aren't you sick of seeing all your favorite fast food restaurants becoming healthy and cleaning up their image? Fast food should be greasy and make your heart palpitate.
Yeah, but I'd never break the 6th commandment, dude.
Wait a second.
And these aren't cameos like, oh my god, PewDiePie's in South Park. Trying really hard not to sound pretentious here about YouTubers, but these cameos are from people who are more respected than they are popular. Like, sure, they aren't Mr. Beast. Again, bad timing. But everyone knows their names. I should hope they're not Mr. Beast. Also, most of these people are talented voice actors or have an iconic voice or character actors anyway. It wasn't just for cheap pops.
Wait, so you said he's definitely dead though, right?
Yeah, he's dead. He's definitely
I think he
dead.
melted into dough.
Like Lyle Rath and Joshua Tomar also make appearances in the show, but I never viewed it as like, oh, look at these internet guys, it's a little cameo. Again, Lyle was an internet reviewer I was most inspired by in making these videos and also talking about Superman, because they're both incredibly talented voice actors. Were you in Brawl Taunts? I don't think so. Even Gilbert Godfrey is here, which was originally thought to be his final role as a classic send-off, but he actually does appear later within this same video. And it doesn't just stop at voice work. We've seen guest animation and rotoscoping from the likes of Mark M and Joel Haver. Oni NG made music for the show. I think he made the theme song.
You know, I'm just happy Mother's not here to see it. Check this out.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
These are people I've watched for a very long time and greatly respect. We're like one season removed from having a Lee Hardcastle and Meat Canyon episode. Even the homunculus episode with Joel himself was a reference to a video I watched in high school of a Russian man creating a homunculus by coming in a chicken egg. It's less scientific the way I'm making it sound. I was convinced only me and my friends had seen that video, so I was stoked that everyone else was like, that's from that thing. This is a cartoon's cartoon. Like, there are no bad episodes here, but if I had to pick 2 episodes or 1 episode per season with the least amount of jokes, it'd probably be season 1's Halloween episode and season's 2... Why am I Metalocalypse? Season 2's Alan episode.
Oh, Alan, last night was amazing.
Okay. And while these episodes aren't packed with jokes, the ones that they do have are really funny. It's just that they're more focused on making an atmospheric and beautiful experience. They're gorgeous and atmospheric and push boundaries. I feel like the Alan episode exists solely so they could see how many different animation styles they could fit into 11 minutes. And also as a way to kill off DJ Spitz. Not to get hyperbolic and on my knees too much, but not only is Smiling Friends the best thing Adult Swim has going right now, but it is Adult Swim. It exemplifies everything I believe the network stands for.
What's your, what kind of loggers do you have?
Is she gonna come back? I wanted a water.
Will I miss Deborah's and Tim Heidecker? Sure, but if the Adult Swim is the last major network truly championing not only adult animation, but just animation as a whole, I'm all for it. And yes, some people are turning on it because it's popular and now it's Rick and Morty, whatever that means. But you forget how huge the Rick and Morty boom was. There is a non-zero chance sometime potentially very soon that we see a Smiling Friends Simpsons couch gag. That's how you know you've truly made it.
And there's no such thing as a Zeep torture device. That's like Black Mirror shit, dude. This is an LED I got off of Alibaba.
I really don't have a whole lot more to say about the show other than little details I noticed in the background. There's a Mr. Frog drawing behind Pim's brother in the first episode. There are characters that look strangely like Simpsons characters in the Mr. Frog episode. Charlie says that his grandma died from peanuts, and we see her later in hell. And they don't specify how the peanuts killed her, just that she died of peanuts, which normally wouldn't matter. You would just assume it was an allergy. But later in Mr. Boss's head in the Frowning Friends episode, we see a manifestation of Mr. Peanut, who may or may not exist in actuality in this universe.
You're never leaving. This is your final resting place. Time's up, Charlie. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything to say.
Nah, there's no pressure, man. It's all good. You didn't have to say anything.
There's way more kissing in this show than I remember, and I think that's a big reason why people have latched onto it. I feel like we're bringing kissing back. What a year. The show's mania feels so different from the likes of Rick and Morty because the fans just love cartoons. It's inspired fan art and animation and compositions and remixes. We haven't seen an animated phenomenon like this in a good while, and while Rick and Morty was popular, it was mostly just like the memes were popular. This show makes people love cartoons. Because like other shows have done well in their specific animated bubble, but people I went to school with don't know what an amphibia is. Okay, so I lied a little bit earlier. I did have a different video planned this September before shifting it over to this future concept again. But I did not decide to pivot because I wanted to talk about the merger or because I wanted to talk about modern cartoons. The truth is, and I am not exaggerating, I changed this script because I wanted to talk about one show. One cartoon where I did not expect anything. I really thought it was gonna be another Bird Girl. Not bad enough to get angry, not good enough to care, just straight apathy. Over the last 2 years, this cartoon has absolutely blew every expectation I had out of the water. And I knew come September that I needed to talk about it and I needed you to hear me. My current favorite show that I need you guys to watch desperately, it isn't YOLO, it isn't Teenage Euthanasia, it isn't even Smiling Friends. I need you guys to hear me out. You guys have to go watch Royal Crackers, like immediately following this video. I refuse to let this show get looked over until it gets rediscovered years later like Oral or Xavier. I first laid eyes on this show during Adult Swim's 2023 April Fool's broadcast, where between elaborate bits about AI and trains, the block would rewind to classic shows like the Space Ghost episode Fire Ant in its non-extended form, and the Broom Shakalaka, which is one of my favorite pieces of comedy ever, my favorite sketch, but also fast forwarded to the future, where we would see our first look at the new season of Teenage Euthanasia, the new season of Smiling Friends, and the world's first glimpse of Royal Crackers, where it aired most of its pilot. As much as I love the pranks and bits for nostalgic reasons, Adult Swim's April Fool's broadcast has basically been relegated to a time to show off sneak peeks and new shows and trailers, since they know that's when most eyes will be on the network. Why they chose to show Pibby again, I don't know. I did like the Smiling Friends puppets this year, though. I guess it really goes to show Pibby ruined everything. I've said this before, but I'd much rather something be traditionally ugly than bland. Like every time there's a new supposed hit animated comedy on FX or Comedy Central, and it just looks like a Family Guy cutaway gag. When I first saw Royal Crackers, and I mean literally saw with my eyes, I didn't expect anything of it. Wait a minute, this isn't Smiling Friends. But it quickly won me over with how funny the pilot is. I normally don't fuck with 22-minute cartoons, but it seems like these episodes are jam-packed with jokes that are almost perfectly tailored for me, and I really struggled to pick one per episode and then narrow that down to a handful of bits. I wish I could show you the entire bit of the comatose dad falling down the stairs over and over until he hits the ground, and then the family comes over and starts shaking him, and then we smash cut to a hospital, and you think the joke is over, but then the doctor implies the reason he's comatose is because of damage to his spine. And then again, you think the joke is over, but then the family all gang up on him, and then we cut to the same doctor in the bathroom crying since they all made fun of him and questioned his authority. So I'll just use the meme bit instead that I thought was funny in an ironic sense.
Okay. You guys ever see that animation of Homer Simpson backing into the bushes? That's me right now.
Yeah, too much TMI, Darby.
Too funny.
To me, this is the best use of memes in a show without aging yourself, because within the context, the characters are old and out of touch. They canonically kill Ninja in this pilot. It's a great pilot. I love the way they draw real-life celebrities and recreate classic posters. It's like they traced them but made them ever so slightly off on purpose. I don't even know how to describe this style of comedy because I don't think it's cringe humor. It's just so, like, matter-of-fact the way the characters speak to each other. It's amazing. I love it. You should watch this show. Because the show never pauses for a studio audience to laugh. It's amazing the amount of jokes they can cram into 22 minutes. Something I haven't seen done since like Arrested Development. That's a pretty apt comparison considering the crux of this whole show. I also got really into this show right as Succession ended, and I really needed to fill that suck-shaped hole in my hole. If you write a show about a trauma-filled family perpetuating the cycle of abuse while also pitting well-written siblings against each other while they try and please their patriarch father and take over the company from him, I will be seated. Arrested Development, Succession, WWE, in real life, Royal Crackers follows the Hornsby family. Steve Hornsby, spelled S-T-E-B-E instead of a V, it's Steve, spelled like that on purpose, who's so pathetic and, for lack of a better term, and I do mean this because I don't like this term, beta, so much so that he struggles to stand up for himself and improperly fills the CEO shoes of Royal Crackers. They run a cracker company. They make crackers. But he's held up by his wife, Deb, who's a real go-getter, at least of the family compared to everyone else. She wears her heart on her sleeve and often just says what she wants out loud. It's also cute that she absolutely adores Steve and his weird idiosyncrasies. I've seen so many, my husband is pathetic, I hate him, I want to leave him archetypes. Would you believe it? What a shock. I, Andrew Ultra, like when the wife in a cartoon likes her weird, pathetic, off-putting husband. What are the chances? Steve's brother Theo, former frontman of nu metal band Taint, is more focused on his own famousness than that of the company. My script says fame. I think I forgot the word for fame just now. But still wants to run the company to inflate his ego and maybe drum up attention and support for a Taint reunion tour. Neither of these brothers seem to matter at all to their comatose father, who we learn more about later in the show.
Quite the contrary, Doctor. You're right on time. Oh, calm your nerves, Doctor. This man is of the trustworthy sort. Besides, we've long banned those people from setting foot in our factories.
Spies.
You can call me a racist all you like, but I have a business to protect.
Steve and Deb's son, Matt, voiced by Naruto, and the principal. Mostly gets episodes by himself. I don't know if that's by design, but his character is an introvert, not just to the world, but to his family too. He mostly just gets new special interests every time the plot focuses on him. Like his first major episode with Theo, he gets hooked on marionettes, which doesn't come up ever again, which is the same episode where a character voiced by Gilbert Godfrey makes a heroic sacrifice, and then as the credits roll at the end, the episode is dedicated to him. Heartbroken. Gasp. Breath taken away. I'm trying really hard not to write the term gag. I told you Gilbert would show up later in this video. This was what was supposed to be his final role, but then he also had a additional role in the Patrick Star Show. Boo! But now he's also doing a voice that he filmed way in advance for Shrek 2 Retold. Yay! Fitting end to his career. A lot like YOLO, season 1 focuses mainly on self-contained wacky episodic plots, but even by episode 4, they had me hooked. Episode 4, just titled Steve after its titular character, not only shows valuable insight to every member of the family, except for Matt. A weird thing about season 1 is that it seems almost purposeful that every other episode is centered around Matt, and then the episodes in between, he barely shows up with the rest of the family. Not a complaint, more of an observation. But it doesn't matter this time around anyway. Not only is this 22-minute episode packed full of jokes, but it's also the only piece that I've talked about, sans maybe smiling friends, that I really struggled to find one bit from. So I settled on Steve being pathetic, my favorite joke in the show.
I had therapy after work. I told him about that dream I had where I drove the wrong car home from the grocery store. Hold on, cover your ears. Yeah! Anyway, about halfway through, he says, Steve, I can't do this anymore. Stop telling me every single dream you have. And just walked out. So, gotta find a new therapist. Again.
And yeah, we're supposed to laugh at him, but we also follow him and his inadequacies as he's slowly pushed out of the family by Theo's old Taint bandmate. Did I mention Taint? I did. I just didn't really... Here's the logo. I know I'm teetering on Fast and Furious levels by saying it's about family, but it is. Not only about Steve's feeling of adequacy, but also Theo and Deb's. This is the first episode we get a proper flashback to the way their father treated them as kids. Unless you count the actual footage used in the last episode where they go to the factory of mutant chickens, but that's just actual footage, that's not a flashback. You should watch this show, by the way. The most compelling and ongoing story pieces we get throughout Royal Crackers are both focused on how much the father fucked them up for life and how little he cares about his sons Steve and Theo. Sure, Theo feels betrayed and Steve feels inadequate in his marriage. Matt is also there. I mentioned this previously with Lois Lane, but the average viewer, or at least the most vocal viewers, for whatever reason, do not take well to women. The kind of women who aren't perfect beacons of morality. On that note, it's likely very hard to make a story that's an allegory for cheating and not just like give up and be like, yeah, no, she's an evil woman character. She ruined our family because she's evil and hates me. And there's no nuance to the situation at all. I'm not saying I condone cheating. I actually, shockingly, think it's a pretty huge dick move. But Deb does her best to make the perfect family photo for the family's social media she runs for the company, but she has to Photoshop every image because her husband isn't helping out and her son sucks.
My own son doesn't even want anything to do with me.
Deb, no offense, but if you're gonna let Matt dictate how you feel about yourself, then as Michelle Tanner would say, you're in big trouble, mister.
Oh, God.
Don't worry, it seems more like we're getting into like Meg Griffin territory, but Deb and Matt come to a mutual understanding of each other in the next episode, like clockwork. Of course, she's swayed a little bit when a new guy shows up and shows interest in her hobbies and opinions and puts forth an effort. It doesn't mean she doesn't love Steve still. Why am I talking about this for so long? They aren't real. I just commend them for writing a very nuanced situation while also making it really, really funny. This dude says live, laugh, love out loud. Not only is it the first flashback we see in this series, but this episode also ends with the first, maybe second, cathartic needle drop, of which there will be several in this series. Steve finally stands up for himself and makes a nice post on the family social media page, and it's set to "You look like I need a drink" by Against Me. The needle drops only get more elaborate and insane, and it never once feels unearned. They knock it out of the park every time.
You invited everyone to come over on September 11th to, and I quote, celebrate the most cherished day in our nation's history. There's no mention that it's your father's birthday, and for some reason you signed the email off with, let the bodies hit the floor.
That's how I sign off every email, dumbass.
God damn it, Theo. Look at Dad. He's devastated. Not only is no one going to show up for his birthday party, they're all now under the impression that we're throwing a 9/11 party next year. Where are we gonna get the budget for that?
It also helps that Royal Crackers surely doesn't have the same corporate pool that a show like Rick does and can't. And maybe I just don't listen to a lot of music and haven't broadened my horizons, but they mainly have to use songs that I have never heard of from bands I've never seen. I want to say also, I know it isn't trailblazing to not do the whole ball and chain thing, but I really appreciate that Deb and Steve are both losers who find each other incredibly hot. Like, it's not like, yeah, you're sad, but I love you, whatever. I said we get married. They're like so into each other. She loves her male wife. It rocks. There's honestly not much I could tell you without spoiling the show, which would go against what I'm trying to do here. Like, the show isn't super arc intensive. I'm talking about every individual episode. I don't want to spoil them.
If Hazelnut finds out I came around looking for her and she didn't get to see me, she might kill herself. Like, that's a legitimate fear I have standing here right now. My hands are actually shaking thinking about it. Look.
Young man,
Look. See it?
Okay, I need to be getting back to my husband now.
Like, if the season 1 finale can entice you to watch this show, but I have to reveal what it's about or how it ends, I shan't. Not much more I can say to get you to watch it. Just watch it. You guys trust me, right? We've been together long enough. I know you see me through your streaming screen. Although I am not real, I am made of pixels and little robots. I think you should watch this show. The season 1 finale is about the family dynamic shifting and also Minecraft. Like, this show has those Futurama endings that hit you in the gut and it like doubles it in such a short amount of time. Season 2? Girl, I really don't want you to think that this is a serialized show that's super serious all the time.
And for them, tradition and family values are just another hurdle that stands in the way of what they're really after. Money.
Money, of course.
Money.
Folks, if we let the school replace Royal Crackers with Dennis and Kale chips, we'll be one step closer to tyranny. Deb, Steve, you're great Americans. Keep fighting the good fight, and God bless. We'll be back after
Good to be here.
Royal Crackers. Sustenance.
I think it's closer to something like Adventure Time, where the main goal is to tell funny jokes and have interesting individual episode concepts, and in doing so, cover deeper topics tied to these characters. I use the Adventure Time comparison because Adventure Time is very agreeable and like averagely popular. Like, most people agree that they like it, and the people that don't talk about not liking it. And I want to convince the most amount of people to watch this show, but that is honestly not the most apt comparison, because I think that Royal Crackers has more in common with Steven Universe, but a lot of you cringe at the sound of that show, even though you haven't watched it, because season 2 has flashback episodes that are simultaneously set in the present and the past as the brothers explore their childhood trauma while uncovering the crimes of their father that they now need to live with as adults. It's a character we see as just like, oh, it's a funny parent character, whatever, and then more and more episodes we learn,
I found that little freak in a Chucklebee's claw machine a few years back. I shattered the glass and smashed it and ran out of there, but I passed out from blood loss before I could get to the exit. Woke up a few hours later and the staff was like, "Here, take it, get out of our restaurant." Dumbasses!
You mean you were having these nightmares too?
I thought I shook them for good, but your little presentation just reopened Pandora's box.
Hornsby Land.
There's also Ewoks in this universe. They established that in episode 2, season 2, and they will continually return. It's the first episode in the show that I understood the necessity of the tertiary Royal Crackers office workers that aren't a part of the Hornsby family. The ones that have been around the longest act as surrogate parental figures. Succession. The episode immediately following that is about a different evil CEO trying to fill the vacuum of Theo's daddy issues. It also doubles as a Deb plot where an evil AI elliptical system takes advantage of her insecurities.
Oh, hey, Deb. I'm watching a news piece about school censoring Huck Finn's aggressive use of the N-word.
Oh, hey. You like what you see?
Well, it's a hot-button issue, but Twain did say it was meant to challenge the reader.
The lingerie, Steve.
Oh,
And I hate to say this because, again, I love the show. It means a lot to me. They did this way better than the recent Aqua Teen episode did. It's weird that those episodes came out within a year of each other. Like, it's weird that it happened twice. Again, like I said, the Ewoks come back. An episode that doubles as a coming-of-age story for their son Matt, but also another brother adventure for Steve and Theo to learn more about their father's horrible past. All while, by the way, being a really good wrestling episode. A while ago, I had a script, and maybe I will still make it, ranking the best and worst wrestling episodes of cartoons, which happens more often than you would think, because while none of these episodes get realistically close, some of them are really good at capturing the feeling of pro wrestling and the aura, the fandom around it, like Tiger Millionaire or the Rumble from Ragnarok. But know that the bar has been raised so much with this episode of Royal Crackers. I really don't like the regular show one. I wanted to. Now that I've said all this, I probably can't make that video. So if you don't like wrestling but do like new metal, Darren's System of a Down plays an important role in the episode right before this.
Now your new album, Drown Your Sibling, has come under fire because of its strong anti-parent, anti-authority lyrics.
MLK, Malcolm X, Tupac. What do they have in common? They're all exactly like me.
The show really does have a little something for everybody. A little something for most people. Can you guys just watch the show for me? I promise you'll fall in love with it. Would you prefer a horror short film set all in a shopping mall? Or would you rather have a harrowing story about a character who only had 5 lines prior, revealing she's a mushroom person piloting a human mech destined to destroy the world? Set around a dramatic choir version of Aqua's Barbie Girl? Probably the best use of music in this show. Well, second best. I rewatch all of these shows or seasons for this video, and let me tell you, when I rewatched the finale of season 2 of Royal Crackers, my jaw hit the floor. I know it's a tough fight, specifically when we've seen a really good front of specifically Adult Swim shows this year, but this may be my favorite episode of television in 2024. I'm swinging for the fences here. Even if I'm wrong, even if this is an absurd exaggeration, I need you, the ultra faithful, to support this show. Just try it. Just try it a little bit. The last time I said this about an Adult Swim show that wasn't super popular, 3 Busy Debras got canceled. But honestly, as much as I would love to see more of this project, of these characters, the final time we leave off with the Hornsby family in season 2, where I'm not spoiling this episode, you should watch it. I guarantee you will not guess the needle drop at the end. How they managed to use this song without sounding cringe is a miracle, but it ends on several notes of the family overcoming adversity by being a family. This is a clear sitcom setup that is a vehicle for really funny jokes, but still, the damn family dynamic made me a mess. Anyway, if that is the final time we see these characters, I can rest easy. I mean, how many other Adult Swim shows got only 2 seasons and are still regarded as peak television? I really don't care if the show gets renewed. Obviously, I want more, and I want the people who worked on it to remain employed, but what I care about really is that the show gets its proper recognition. I don't want a Xavier, Venture, or Oral situation where 7 years down the line, people make a bunch of videos that are like, why did nobody talk about this show? Because motherfucker, I'm talking about it right now. Just know that I was here first in this diamond in the rough, hidden gem from the past, which is currently now. Renew Royal Crackers, watch Royal Crackers, love Royal Crackers. I legitimately only made this video so I could spread the good word of Taint. Everything else was simply secondary. But I guess I started the whole thing with the timeline, so I should get to the actual point.
I don't get it. Isn't Lodi like a cool place? I mean, Creedence Clearwater wrote a song about it, for heaven's sake.
It's absurdist humor, honey. It's the type of thing you'd find on HBO Max.
Oh, yeah, I think I get it now. That's funny.
Since I began writing this video months in advance, a lot has dropped. Because it's an Adult Swim video on the BH Ultra YouTube channel, it's going to be released at the end of September. I know summer technically ends September 20th, but I'm still counting this as the summer of Ultra, whether I want to or not, regardless of not wearing the Hawaiian shirt. So things that release throughout September, I won't be able to cover because I will be editing this video. You guys know I don't have a whole lot of interest in anime, but Uzumaki looks promising. I've learned my lesson from last time with Unicorn Warriors Eternal. I should not upload a video of my opinions on a thing I have not started or finished. As of when I'm wrapping this up, Rick and Morty the anime has begun to air. So I will say this, having not seen any of it, way to strike while the iron's hot. Like, I enjoy Rick and Morty, but I don't think anyone outside of 2018 is watching this. And neither am I. Maybe next year. Alternatively, I've only seen a handful of episodes of Psychops. While it isn't necessarily doing anything for me, I do like the quick dialogue and jokes. It's just that shows with interchangeable characters don't do a whole lot for me. Maybe I haven't seen enough of the show. Maybe it gets really good later in the season. I have friends and swimmers who seem to really like it. I mean, I love that Adult Swim is continuing to greenlight new shows. Also, while I was filming this, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Invincible Fight Girl, which was the final Cartoon Network production planned to air on the network, has been moved to Adult Swim. This video has been very tug and pull. The forward may seem a little strange considering the title and premise of this video is how I think the future is bright, but that's the future of Adult Swim. The truth of the matter is, I tricked you a little bit. The purpose of this video is not for me to talk about how excited I am for these new animated shows. It's to convince you to watch Royal Crackers. We already knew that. Nope, while Adult Swim is going along and pumping out banger after banger and is the final beacon of animation appreciation, it doesn't come without sacrifices. Necessary sacrifices? Probably not. So while we can stand here and celebrate the future of Adult Swim, we can't do so without remembering and mourning the past and present of its older brother. Throughout this video, we have relived the timeline of HBO Max and the corporate merger and horrifying write-offs and several layoffs. As I'm recording this, the Animation Guild and all associated industry affiliates are picketing and campaigning for a deal that they deserve, for contracts that they deserve. For years, we have seen these wonderful cartoonists and voice talent not been given proper representation or credit or payment or residuals, and we've seen companies continually again and again treat them like garbage. I did not mean this timeline of victims to coincide with the negotiations, as I very rarely plan for things like this. While I do believe that Adult Swim is, at least content-wise, in a really good place right now, I do not believe the same for Cartoon Network. Not only were most of the active shows canceled and or wiped from history, but every possible new production either had its legs cut out from under it or was siphoned into Adult Swim. You've probably seen a lot of news articles and tweets about how Cartoon Network is dead, and then the channel responds by saying, hey guys, we're not dead, which is partially true. You can tune in to cable television and watch the Cartoon Network right now. They're probably still making their way through Total Drama Island. The truth is that the channel's not dead, but Cartoon Network Studios was absorbed into Warner Bros. Animation. The channel's not dead, but they were forced to relocate from their iconic building in Burbank. The channel's not dead, but there will never be another Cartoon Network original. They still own all their IP, so kids can have a great time watching the BMO show, and we can all have a laugh with the Jellystone finale. I believe that as long as creative people are involved in the process, that quality products will continue to be made. And I sound weird even calling them products, but like in a business sense, that what we're saying, these are pieces of art. We're dropping the cynicism. But Cartoon Network, as a studio that creates original cartoons, is dead. If that outro really hit you hard and you're impressed by how well written or performed it was, just know that a robot and a computer cannot replicate actual human writing and performance. You cannot match genuine human creativity. Even if your models get smarter and smarter, you cannot beat that. People will be able to tell the difference. Fuck you. And tack that on at the end there. I have a lot more to say about AI, but it doesn't really make my point any better. Cartoon Network cartoons will live on through reruns, whether that be on the network itself or as a part of Checkered Past, again, on Adult Swim. I got to watch Larry and Steve on it a while back, even though the cartoon episodes were weirdly edited and spaced. I don't see Adult Swim extending any earlier, especially not when they're all in on this preschool block thing still. Tickle you? More like stinky you. If you can glean anything from this video that's kind of all over the place and features a lot of nonsensical rants, read my lips. The future of Adult Swim is bright. Cartoon Network is dead. Watch Royal Crackers. I yield the rest of my time. And thus concludes the summer of Ultra. I feel as though now I've paid off my debts for doing the cardinal sin of trying to take a vacation. But goddamn, dude, I live on a ship. A ship I know can take me basically anywhere I want. Do I know how to drive it? No, but isn't all driving trial and error? It's not like they give you a piece of paper that says, this paper says that you know how to drive. That's ridiculous. I had to change back to actually properly make my point. I'm tired of standing here. I'm tired of rotting here. I'm tired of ordering food. I'm tired of talking to no one. Just once, I'd like to see something new. Is that a door? A door sound. We're doing door sounds now? We're doing oh, it's Door City over here. Am I really gonna fall into a trap laid out so clearly in front of me? Okay, but if I walk into it and I'm self-aware of that's what I'm doing, like lampshading it, it doesn't actually count as getting trapped. Actually, you know what? You're coming with me. I have an idea, and you're not going to want to miss this. Andrew? It sounded like you left. Look, I know I haven't been as present as of late, but in my defense, there are several pipes in here whose only job is to shoot out gas and steam. I fell asleep for a while. Hello? Hello? That's it. I'm coming out there.